That's what that is. Thank you. Thanks for waking me up. I was looking a bit embarrassing on there. Reynard Gelderblom on Twitter. Looking at the pit crews, do they work in specific shifts like you commentators do, or do they just sleep whenever they get a gap?
Somebody told me earlier in the week that Audi have actually got 8-hour shifts going on. I've not asked Audi themselves, but I'd be surprised. Toyota certainly don't. I know that, and then the smaller teams absolutely do not. They don't have the resource to do that. But yeah, there is a rumour floating around that Audi are on 3 8-hour shifts.
And one more for the moment on Twitter as we continue to get deep into the action. We've just started the final WEC race of the Le Mans 24 hours, the final 6 hours. Deepak Ramdas 1 on Twitter. The Audi's pace has increased. Do LMP1s have the ability to turn the engine power up to maximum or lower to conserve various different engine modes?
Yes, they do. Yeah, absolutely, they do. So they can go into fuel-saving maps. They can use a little bit more energy from the battery in certain rev ranges. There's lots of ways where they can save fuel or use a bit more to get a bit more power. The Toyota used to have, and I'm sure still does have, a boost button, which is just to give them that little bit of overtake. If they've got a very short straight and they just want to use a bit more power, they can hit that button and it's like DRS in Formula One, I guess. They get past. But no, it will be, again, interesting to see how this plays out with fuel saving, because there will be a lot of that going on towards the end, and you can lift and coast in these cars very effectively. We hear it in Formula One, lift and coast, lift and coast. So you're coming into the braking zone 200 yards before the braking zone, you're coming off the accelerator, just blending out of the throttle, and the amount of downforce these cars have got, the cars do start to slow very quickly, just through the downforce they've got on the drag. So the car will then be saving an awful lot of fuel on the overrun before they get on the brakes and then come out the corner.
Mechanics sleeping through happy hour. Nice little montage. You just know there's going to be some cheesy music put under that, and another YouTube video will be made by somebody somewhere, bless them.
5 hours, 57 minutes to go, so we've got one WEC race left.
And Toyota leads by 31.4 seconds to Toyota. It's a 1-2, but we've been here before. Toyota have led the Le Mans 24 hours with a comfortable margin. 30 seconds, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Buemi continues to stretch the lead, though, up to 32 seconds now. We're on lap 84, so we're still a little way away from a stop from either of those Toyotas.
6 hours to go. Toyota, Porsche, and the 2 Audis. One is only a lap down. It's still a 3-horse race for the moment, we think. The Alpine Nissan leading, the Oreca in second, the BR Engineering in third. 3 different LMP2 manufacturers in the top 3. I'm surprised pleasantly by that fact. It's very good to see. The GTE Pro category race still led by Ferrari, but Ford are not done yet. They're punching very high in second and third position. Aston Martin slowly starting to come back into it, splitting the third Ford in 4th and 6th position, while the leader in GTM is still the Scuderia Corsa Ferrari, with Swedler at the lead of the car at the moment. Kubaisi in the Abu Dhabi Porsche is there in second, and Perodo has brought the 83 Ferrari back from the brink in the AF Corsa Ferrari. Let's look through the field to the retirements. We still have 50 cars of the 60 starters running the race at least. That's pretty impressive, but then we look to the retirements and there are some big names. The Bicolis car, one of the Chevys, the 2 Works Porsches in the GTE class, the 2 Works Ferraris in the GTE class category for AF Corsa. Some big names have fallen.
Absolutely, no, and to see those 2 AF cars out is a big shock for me, and that's a real big hit on the WEC campaigns. So Ferrari with the new 488 will be on the back foot now as they move through the rest of the season. We've got our 2 GTE Pro leaders just gone into the pits. Malacelli in the 488 in the Risi competition car has actually left the pit lane now. That was just a straight service, no tyres, and Dirk Muller has managed to same within a second on the pit stop time, and actually slightly quicker on his in-lap. So Muller 34 seconds behind as it stands. Westbrook will be owing us a stop. Yeah, Westbrook will be owing us a stop very shortly.
We talk about the last time Ford won the Le Mans 24 Hours overall, being 1969. It's quite startling when you actually sit back and remember that the last time a Ferrari won the Le Mans 24 Hours overall was 51 years ago, 1965. Wow. You automatically assume it's Ferrari. They must have dominated at some point during the 70s or the 80s, but once we got into the 70s and the 917s were starting to make their way through, then Matra were a strong force. Then we had the Renault come through in 1978, and then we got to the 80s, and anybody who was not in a Porsche 956 was going to have a very sorry time indeed. So Ferrari haven't won the Le Mans 24 Hours overall. They've won classes so many times, but they've not won the overall Le Mans 24 Hours for 51 years. That is astonishing. Any guesses on the drivers? Maston Gregory and the late great Jochen Rindt.
The thing that's going to be very sweet for Toyota as things stand is, if they do this, they've beaten Porsche. Porsche are the most successful manufacturer here at Le Mans.
Well, not only have they beaten Porsche, they've beaten Audi, the two biggest names in Le Mans sports car racing. They've come so close so many times, Toyota. They've had so many factory efforts. We look back to the late 80s and 90s in the Group C1 days, with the Toms manufacturer, the Toms team running their operation. The GT1 in 1998 and 99, that car was so impressive, so nearly won in 99, could easily have won in 1998. They've been doing an absolutely cracking job since they re-entered the FIA World Endurance Championship in 2013. Someone's going to correct me, I'm sure. I think it's 2013.
So, yep.
So close in 2014. They could easily and should easily have won that one. But this time, fingers crossed, touch wood, lucky rabbit's foot, whatever you want. They're 1 and 2, separated by half a minute.
Alpine with a problem with the wheel gun. So that's our leading LMP2 car. Just bringing out the spare gun now, which isn't on the boom that you see normally going around the car. So normally the guy can run all the way around the car with this swiveling arm you see above the car. So you can do a full lap, and now they're struggling to get to the front wheel to make the change. Not a massive panic. They've got a good gap. But they won't want to be losing silly time like this in pits with a wheel gun problem. And
it's still tough as well, because the mechanics are tired, they're exhausted. You can't really think straight when you're that nuts.
You can see that in their body language now. You can see that it's, you know, earlier on in the race, there wouldn't have been so much panic.
You're not quite sure where you are, you're sleep deprived, you're not thinking clearly, you're not even seeing clearly sometimes in this. It really does mess with your head being up this long. I mean, okay, the 3 hours sleep we had last night, but like most of the teams, we've been up since 8 o'clock yesterday morning, so it's difficult. You do have to push yourself. You have to figure out exactly what your body can and can't do. And for the mechanics, it's impossible to get it right sometimes, because you really have to stretch your physical agility, your mental agility. You have to be a bit of a strategist. You also have to be quite physical. It's tough changing tires. You know, it really is a physically demanding task in the pits. Everybody looks at it and goes, oh, that looks easy. It's really difficult. You have to be very strong to get it done quickly.
They do, you know, these guys are very well trained. I'm sure that the teams are rotating people through wheelman and wheel feeder, but you know, they've got to, just to try and keep people fresh, keep people awake, keep people alert. But yeah, normally you would see a lot of calm going on around an incident like that. There was a bit of panic there in the Alpine garage as they were running back to get the gun. The guy was trying to get it off the lance. They should have, that would have been something that they've drilled before. Gun failure, bang, right, go. So yeah, surprised to see them running around like that, but then they've been up for an awfully long time now.
The most finishes of the Le Mans 24 Hours was in 2013 at 42. We've still got 50 going as Gert is down in the pits.
Stéphane Richelmy, it was a good stint for you. It's of course your first Le Mans here with Sunday morning, and everything is going quite well. Well, what was the biggest difficulty you've had during the night?
Actually, I was quite lucky because I could sleep some hours this night because Nico did the nice stint, because yeah, for sure he has more experience. He did a really good job because I took the car in P1 with some margin. So for me, the key was just to stay on track, have a good rhythm, and not to make any mistakes with the traffic.
Still 6 hours to go, of course. Is there any time to let up a bit to try and save the car a bit?
Yeah, it's still a really long way because it's a 6 hour race. We have some margin, but we cannot slow down too much. Otherwise, we will lose the momentum and the focus. So I think we'll just take less the curves and push a bit less, and we'll see in the end.
Okay, thank you.
We just saw Chris Cummings spin around at the exit of the Porsche curves. Bit of a scary moment.
Every time we see those ESM cars, they seem to be pointing the wrong way around a gravel track.
It's a bit of a crazy day at the office for them. Now, we were talking about this being the most amount of cars there's ever been in the Le Mans 24 hours, and it is. 60 cars is the most, but it has been done before. In 1950, 51, 53, and 55, there were 60 cars on the grid. So this is only the 5th time there's been that many. And this could break the record for the amount of finishers we've had, because 42 cars crossed the line in 2013, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's not really fair, though. There was only 56 starters, so...
yes and no. You still had 14 cars retire. We've only had 10 cars retire so far.
Let's see.
It's possible. It's possible. Lowest amount of finishers? Do you want to have a guess?
It'll be something like 10.
6, would you believe?
Wow.
6. Back in
was that?
1931.
Yeah,
Only
okay.
6 cars came home in the Le Mans 24 hours.
How many cars started?
I would say about 2
10.
dozen. I'd say about 2 dozen, 24. The lowest amount of starters was in 1930, the year before, and that was only 17. Only 17 cars started, so it's amazing how this race has evolved over the years. The most safety cars in a single race, that was 3 years ago. 12 appearances.
Yeah, that was a bit of a crazy race.
We actually spent 5.5 hours nearly behind the safety car.
That was a very sad day, though, and there was a lot of safety concerns around what had gone on, and we lost a great driver that day, so yeah, understandable.
The highest attendance list in history, that classic 1969 race. 400,000 people were here. Looking at the way this battle is shaping up between Toyota, Porsche and Audi this year, what's the betting next year? We could be going for that sort of figure again. There is a bit of a culture shift at the moment between Formula One and the sports car scene. A lot more Formula One fans are deciding, do you know what? It's not good enough anymore. Sports cars, that's where it's at again. And after this race, it's going to be hard to find an argument to prove them wrong.
Yeah, Bernie isn't going to be very pleased. Schedule Baku against this back-to-back.
It's the worst possible
which is the best
race.
Which is the best race so far. I suspect that we're not going to see. We'll see a closer finish here than you're going to see after an hour and a half of racing in Baku. I think we'll have a closer finish here.
That's a good shout, actually.
So just looking at the leaderboard again, and Seb Boemi now really stretching his legs and opening that gap, just waiting for the car to come through. Conway 31 seconds, so the gap has stopped opening to Conway. Lieb is coming through the final sector now. Just trying to see where Lieb is. Pegasus car getting awfully in the way of the GTE Pro lead car there. Sorry, the second place car, the Dirk Müller on board. As they come through in front of us, just waiting for the gap. So Lieb comes through, further 15 seconds behind Conway.
Matt Shorter asks, how many female drivers are participating this year? That's an easy one, just 2. Ines Tattinger and Christina Nielsen. And they become, well, they could still become the 58th and 59th women to finish the race.
Yeah.
They're doing an absolutely cracking job, both of them. The cars are running okay. The number 60 Ferrari is 9th in the GTE AM category, and Ines Tattinger in the Pegasus. They're outside the top 25, but they're still going.
Yeah.
Still going.
I mean, it's Ford GT, going back to one of the comments you were making last night, there was an all-girl crew in the Ford GT. Cindy Alleman,
there was.
Natasha Gashnang, and...
Go on, you're doing so well.
I do know who it is. And she still races. She's still on an Audi contract, and she's very quick.
Who have you said so far?
Cindy Alleman, Natasha Gashnang, and...
Come on, you can get there. DTM recently.
Yeah, she's a very quick young Audi protege. No, brain's gone. Been up for too long.
Rahal Frey.
Rahal Frey. Yeah, so they didn't finish, though, I don't think, those guys.
No, they didn't. In fact, an all-female crew hasn't finished the Le Mans 24 Hours since 1977, and that was Christine Beckers and the late, great Lella Lombardi.
Yeah, okay.
In the Inaltera, the LM77. The most starts by a woman, and Charlotte Venet. She started 10 times. The most successful, in terms of finishing well, Marie-Claude Beaumont in the early 70s. She won her class twice in 6 starts. So can women handle Le Mans? Yes, they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's anything there to stop a woman coming here and doing very well. I don't think there's anything to stop a woman coming here and driving a P1 car every bit as quickly. It's just about the number of women coming into the sport. We need more women coming into the sport at the age of 8 who then get the numbers up, and you'll start to see far more people out there, far more women out there at the top level. So, you know, there's many people that want to prove that, and there is some good young female talent coming through now, and Christina Nielsen really the first one here showing what they can really do. And you know, she's champion last year, she's leading GTD over in the IMSA series this year, and she's done a fantastic job so far. This is her second year here at Le Mans. She did do the Aston Martin Challenge race here last year to get her foot in the toe in the water, but let's see where she is at the end.
There are 2 or 3 women in both the Ferrari Challenge race and the Road to Le Mans Cup earlier before this race started as well. So it's still a very strong presence. It's getting more equal is the right answer. It's not equal, but it's getting more equal. And what's the betting? Catherine Legge could become the 60th woman to compete at the Le Mans 24 Hours next year. Could happen.
I hope so. It would be nice to see her in a factory seat, and I think she's starting to prove that she's more than capable of that. She had a factory Audi drive for quite a long time alongside Susie Stoddart, now Susie Wolff, Catherine at Audi and Susie at Mercedes, but you know, Catherine, without any shadow of a doubt, has got the talent. And yeah, anybody who watched that first couple of hours at Daytona this year, well, she answered the critics.
Jake Robson, which race so far this year has been better? The Nürburgring 24, the Daytona 24, or the Le Mans 24? It's a tough one, but I am going to go with the Le Mans 24.
Well, let's see. Let's wait for the end.
At the moment
it's the Le Mans 24, but Daytona was a pretty good race.
It was darn good, to be fair.
Yeah.
And that was, again, a race where there was about half a dozen cars on the grid that could have won it, and it ended up coming down pretty much to the last 3-4 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And we lost some of the lead runners early on. Again, talking about Catherine Legge there.
Number 7 Audi in the pits, having already seen the number 8
Going
Audi
back into the box.
Oh,
so
not again.
Are they going to try something? Is this another, right, let's make a change and see what it does. See if
it brings the 8 back on the lead lap. Yeah.
You know, so don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Remember, they've been playing under the nose with brake ducts quite a lot now. This will be the third time we'll have seen them go under the nose. Just trying to see. They are taking the rear deck off, but that's the front off. I'd like to stay with that shot. Well, we'll come back to that, and we'll see where they are and see if they're doing, as I suspect, more brake duct tweaking. I think we're in for a warm day today here. So if they have been running with those ducts semi-blanked or completely blanked, there may be the need to now remove that tape and race the thing with maximum brake cooling.
Who's the fastest car on track right now? Mark Lieb in the Porsche. 3:24.0 the last time round. The Toyotas are on the 3:26 and 3:25 mark. So the Porsche team are trying to come back in it. They're not done yet, nor is the Audi. And that car is actually going faster than both the Toyotas as well. Toyota are in conservation mode, it seems, at the moment. 3:26.6 for Buemi, 3:25.9 for Conway, 3:24.0 for Lieb, and a 3:24.7 for Duval. They are doing everything they can. The German might is not done.
Closest battle on track right now, though, is Johnny Kane, just about to take 3rd place in the LMP2 class away from Victor Scheitar. He's now down to 1.6 seconds behind, having just set a green sector time. So Straka Gibson about to overtake SMP BR01. It would seem. Johnny now 1.5 seconds through the 2nd sector. So no, Johnny's really pushing on. He wants to get that Gibson up onto the bottom step of the podium.
I want to pick that up as well, because on the last lap he was 1.7 seconds quicker than the BR Engineering machine. So that would be an interesting battle to watch out on circuit, and it is the closest for the podium. We're looking.
Here it is. Johnny's
just
been told to push.
Right on cue. The BR Engineering Nissan.
Here we go. Johnny's
and the Gibson Nissan.
The BR01's tucked up behind some traffic as we come out. So one of the that's the Clearwater Racing, no Formula Racing Ferrari 488. So yeah, here we go. Johnny not got the same straight line pace as that BR01 though, has he? The BR01's very slippery through the air.
Toyota in. That's Conway. Conway pits in the number 6. Now, is that on schedule? Is that to plan?
And if the guys down in the pit lane can get to the number 7, I'm keen to understand what's going on with the number 7. I know it's not in the race, for the win. But we need to understand whether that's a reliability woe or if that's them playing with the settings on that car to further develop the pace of the number 8. So if either of our guys down there can go and find out, please do.
So Conway leading the top 4 into the pits window. Here comes Johnny Kane. He's gonna get Shaitar in the slipstream, but the straight line speed advantage of the BR Engineering could tell here. Johnny Kane is not going to matter about it. He's going for it up the inside of the chicane.
Yeah, he had to wait for the braking zone there, though.
Oh, so close, but he gets it done.
BR has to take avoiding action, which was silly of it on his part. He didn't need to do that, but
yeah, there's 5 hours and 40 minutes left. Why don't you just let him go?
What was pretty interesting there, though, was the fact that Johnny couldn't pull out until he was in the braking zone. So the BR Engineering car much quicker in a straight line, and I suspect we'll see Shaitar trying to have a go back at him.
Scary moment as Conway rejoins the circuit in the Toyota and almost gets sideswiped by the Ferrari AF Corsa machine. That is the 63, I think. No, so it's the 83. Sorry, that was a scary moment on the radio. 4 hour and 40 minutes.
Till rain, did he say?
I think he did say rain. Oh, sorry. From a spectator's point of view, I'm already rubbing my hands with glee because we've already had enough drama and action to fill an entire season. Rain thrown into the mix as well. Wow, that'll just send this race nuclear. It's already fever pitch. I think he did say rain. I think you're right.
On the satellite or on the forecast.
Okay, well maybe the Toyota weathermen have a different opinion to us, or maybe we misheard it.
They aren't very good at weather. I remember young Mr. Hamilton winning a race because of it.
That's
a world championship because of it.
That's very true, yes. And all sorts of conspiracy theories. Did they do it on purpose? Of course they bloody didn't.
So Johnny Kane now goes through in a new fastest lap for that time last time round, and I suspect we've got a green sector 2 for Johnny. Shaitar losing 3 seconds to him in that middle sector. So yeah, the Gibson now on the podium. So we've got Orica Gibson BR01.
Here's a stat I don't have to hand from Jeff GMJ. How many marshals are around the track? Try a couple of thousand.
There's a lot of Brits over here, an awful lot of British marshals up and down the pit lane and out on in the tribunes. So yeah, no, we should thank
well, considering
those guys.
In front of us, I can count at least 20, and that's on one corner. So you multiply that by 8.4 miles, it's got to be in the 1,000 mark.
There's an awful lot, and the logistics of managing those guys is mammoth.
In terms of WEC, asks Charles Bosch, and since Porsche recently bought the track, do you see Kyalami hosting around in the future? Could be.
I'd heard a rumour that it may well happen, but we'll see. It would be nice to get down into South America. South Africa.
For me personally, a World Championship isn't a World Championship unless you're on all 6 continents. I've always been a big believer in that, so that's why I used to love it when the World Rally Championship used to go to the Safari Rally in Kenya. They don't do so anymore, unfortunately, and even the World Touring Car Championship goes to Morocco every year. So it'd be great to see if we could have not just WEC, but Formula One as well, going to an African country. I think that'd be amazing. Out of the pits goes the Toyota.
Shaitar and Kane pit together.
So we've had the race on the track. Now we're going to have the race in the pits. As out of the pits gets Buemi, and he still leads his sister car. They pretty much, to the second, had exactly the same length of pit stop there.
Rast pits as well, so that's second, third and fourth, all getting in the P2 class, all pitting on the same lap. So nearly a full lap René Rast has got on those guys, so that's really getting quite close. Menezes in the Alpine number 36 car is 1 minute 23 up the road on René Rast, and that's only going to grow while Rast is in the pits, so it's going to be more like a 2.5 minute gap Menezes is going to have over the rest.
Well, Kuiper Hoffmann has been looking at the AccuWeather satellite, and apparently there is a nasty blob of rain currently crossing Ireland and marching pretty sharpish east. So whether that's just stirring the pot a little bit, or whether that is genuinely a concern, the teams don't think so far, and they'll have the top of the range weather meters. They'll know exactly where the rain is, where it's coming from, how fast it's approaching. And so far, none of the teams here seem to be concerned. I think we're going to get away with this one without any more rain. But now we've got an interesting dynamic. The 6 Toyota, Mike Conway, has got the number 1 Porsche right on its tail. The number 1 Porsche having pitted a little bit earlier on, of course. The Beechstein Aston has just gone into the box. There's the leader, inverted commas, of the race, Sebastian Buemi. Here's the radio.
Tires are coming off. It's going to be not easy to start stint.
It's going to not be easy to what? I didn't quite get that.
No, I didn't hear it.
That could be the most critical thing in the race, and we couldn't really hear it. So Buemi, something at Toyota is not going to be easy. The whole race, I can believe that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough fight from here. 5 hours, 34 minutes to go. Buemi's pushing like crazy. I wonder whether he's actually complaining whether the next stint's going to be hard, because he does. I think Buemi will be staying in for at least one more. So
he's done
yeah.
3 already, hasn't he?
He'll be staying in for another. They were quadding through the night. I'd be surprised to see him come out. There's no reason to think that they're not going to quad stint now to the end.
And do we think this stint, the last one before he changes driver, do you think this is going to be a 13 lap or a 14 lap?
I think they're just consistently banging in the 14s now. I think the only reason they did what they did was to just get them split so that it didn't matter which order they came into the box in. So they didn't want to lose time. We saw them do that early in the race too. The Porsche number 2 is in. Mark Lieb gives us his first stop of his stint. Yeah, I think that was just to give us the split between the cars and make sure that they had the opportunity, the best opportunity, to get out cleanly from the pit box.
Punishlessness has obviously got a clearer radio transmission than we have on Twitter. He says the tyres are coming off. That's what Buemi says. Now, what he's saying in that is not literally, not physically, in the wear is going. So they
Which
may
isn't
need...
a surprise considering how quickly Buemi's gone across this stint. He has pushed very, very hard. Conway now 34 seconds back from him. Wait for Conway to come through so that we get an update on that gap. But yeah, I mean, to have gone 34 seconds across a stint quicker than Conway, you'd expect him to have taken quite some life out of the tyres. So the number 6 car now comes across the line. That's Conway going through to break the beam. Is he going to get out ahead of...
Yeah, he'll do that. He'll do that. The Porsche's still going to be going down the pit lane.
33.
Yellow flag.
Lieb does make it out the pit lane.
Double yellow flag.
Lieb.
And that's why.
50 Corvette Labra car.
Oh, that's a carbon copy.
Long way off.
That is a carbon copy, by the look of it, of what Jean-Luc Chatin did in the warm-up this morning. Yesterday morning, I should say. That's Yutaka Yamagishi.
I think Lieb's made it out in front of Conway. And then 32-3 back, so there it is.
Not quite.
He's got him on the outlap.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've got a TV interview.
Big stack in the middle of the corner though, and into the wall.
Yeah, just into the wall.
That's not too bad actually.
Nope, not so bad. Tank tape and tyre wraps, that'll be back out.
Well, let's go down to Gert in the pits.
Of the car, and which is mounted with 2 strings. One of the strings was broke when we had to replace it.
There are theories that you're using this 7 car now as a test lab for the 8 car. Is that correct?
Yeah, what we can usefully try, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Well, unfortunately, a very brief word there from Dr. Ulrich himself. So not giving away anything either, which is good.
Well, reinforcing what we've been saying, that they are using the number 7 to prove out theories for the 8, and it's the only sensible thing for those guys to do now. But 8's far from out of this race. Just looking now at the gaps where we are, so 8 has lost a little bit of time on his in-lap last time round. He's now in the pits, Loic Duval, so he is getting just fuel.
LMP1 leader still Toyota, first and second. 34.3 seconds is the gap. Lieb is only 0.9 of a second away from Conway now, though. So the battle.
How Conway got past Lieb, because I suspect that was down onto the Mulsanne, and it would have been a very tight run
It might even have been at turn 1, you know. They might have just got it by
Jinked
a
out.
metre or so.
Yeah.
It's a shame we didn't really get to see Mark Lieb leaving the pits, because I don't think there was much in that at all coming out of the pits.
There wasn't. That was good work by the Porsche guys though, because it was a 1:06 stop for them, so it was a quick stop to do that. I think the Porsche guys really on it now, making sure that they're getting as much advantage in the pits as they can.
They're determined, aren't they? They won last year. They know it can be done. They've got the equipment. There is still one car running at the front. The other one is still going, by the way, but that water pump failure at night time pretty much taking them out of the running. So they're now the gopher, as it were. And it's 2011 all over again to a certain degree, because the Toyotas, 2x2 hurrah, as we go to the slow zone for that spun Corvette. But it's a difficult one for Porsche, because they're in exactly the same boat as Audi were in 2011. Just one car to fight off the twin effort of Toyota. It can be done. Audi did it. Can Porsche do the same? Senna Mark on Twitter. Catherine Legg, Susie Wolff and Pippa Mann in a P1 car for next year. How's that for a top female lineup? You're going to have to take away Susie Wolff, because she doesn't race anymore, of course. She retired at the Race of Champions last year, so she'd probably say no. I'm going to replace Susie Wolff in that lineup with Jamie Chadwick. That is an interesting choice. She's going to have to do some training in a P1 car before she could do that. She has done some single-seater testing. I was a little disappointed to a certain degree that they didn't put her in the 99 Beech Dean Aston, because she's got a good relationship with that team. But then I did have to remind myself, jumping up from a GT4 car to a GT3 car is a massive leap.
Yeah, and there's lots of other quick young females around European motorsport who are more than capable of jumping in one of these cars and doing the job. But we'll see. You know, I think it'll be surprised to not see Catherine here. There's lots of opportunities. I think it's fair to say for the right female to market herself. To get onto the biggest platform in LMP1.
I could see Sophia Fleury being that girl one day.
Yeah, she's absolutely mega, you know, in terms of her pace. And
she could be an Audi driver, she could be a Porsche driver.
She's struggling for funds. You know, she's another one who's scrimping and saving to get the job done. So, yeah, you've only got to have a Google to see what those drivers are and who they are, what they can do, and see if they can get out here on the grid.
Down the straight with the Porsche 919 Hybrid. Unfortunately, the picture broke up just as we were about to listen to the engine. But the Toyotas are leading. And Conway, on the last lap, because of the slow zone, they were in the 4 minutes mark. But Conway is pulling away quite rapidly from Mark Lieb. He's once again looked after his car in the last stint. And now that they've gained a bit of ground, Porsche, in the pit stops, his basic message is, get away from him.
The Buemi gap isn't going out, which I find strange. I thought that Buemi was going to continue pushing on, but he was complaining about the tyres there. Either Conway should be going back to him, or Buemi should still be pulling away, one or other, but it just seems to have neutralised itself, this 32-second gap.
Is there a chance he physically can't with the tyres the way they are?
Yeah, but then you'd expect Conway to be gaining on him, because Conway hasn't taken that out of the tyres.
He only took 0.4 of a second in the first sector and half a second now in the second sector, so that's improvement, but it doesn't really indicate that Buemi's having major issues with the tyres. That just says traffic more than anything else. So he's gained, but it's not a massive enough gain for the number 5 crew to be worried. So Conway still leading, 32 seconds ahead. 4.4 seconds down the road now. You just saw him coming into the picture, is Mark Lieb in the Porsche. So the Toyota boys are desperate to get away. And Mike Conway is the man to do that. He seems to be captain aggressive around this circuit. Not with other drivers, but at this circuit. He is attacking every single corner.
Dirk Muller in the Ford in the GT Pro car is taking, just I say that, he doesn't take a chunk of time out of Manicelli in the Ferrari, but he had been taking big chunks of time out of Manicelli. He's got the gap down to around 20 seconds now, so he's taken 12 seconds out of that in the last 20 minutes.
It's 17.6 now, and he's gone 7/10 quicker in the first sector.
Yeah, he's trying
And
very, very hard.
1.2 in the second.
Yeah,
Ford aren't out of this yet.
No, he's taken an awful lot, a lot of time out with slow zones now as we go through the Porsche curves. Trying to understand what that's about. That's recovering that Corvette still, isn't it?
So the gap has come down to 17.4 in the battle between Ferrari and Ford for the GT Pro honours. At the rate of, well, what's it likely to be now? You gained 1.2, he gained 7/10 of a second. That could be 2 seconds.
By the end of the stint, he could be on him. It just depends why Magliucelli's struggling in the Ferrari.
Possibly being balked by cars lapping him?
Not really. I mean, we're looking at it's 4 seconds off on the last lap. I don't really understand why that would be. They're on absolutely equal strategy, equal on tyres, equal on fuel load. That is a straight race to the end. That was in effect reset on 0 for everybody on the 6-hour point. So let's see what Dirk Müller does. I think maybe he's just fired up after that penalty. Really wants to get back on terms, and they know they need to push the Ferrari. They're both new cars this year, and they've both had their fair share of reliability woes so far. The Ford probably slightly stronger in terms of reliability so far than the Ferrari. Ferrari have had various engine issues so far during their campaign, and you know, as we've seen, the AF Corsa cars at 51 and 71 both out of this race.
Well, the 50 Corvette has come into the pits, so I'm not entirely sure why we now have slow zones at the same spot. Maybe there was oil down there?
I think they're cleaning it up. The Manitou was still out there, so there was definitely some work to be done. Whether when he's clattered the barriers, they've actually bent the barrier and they're doing some repair work there.
Yeah, possible, I suppose.
I think that's one of the areas where they've got these new safer barriers installed. I don't know how they go about repairing the safer barriers. The barriers that are double layer that give as the car goes in, much like a tyre wall, but safer than a tyre wall in that the car can't get caught up in them, and easier to replace if they are damaged.
Here's an interesting question, and one for you, Giles, because obviously being a club racer yourself and being a team boss at Le Mans in the past, you know the answer to this one more than most. Philip Holzerfeld wants to know, what can I do to get myself in a race car at Le Mans in 2024? Sim racing? Local class racing? Should I move to Europe from South Africa? What would you do?
Sim racers have been here and done it. I think Darren Cox's program with GTA Academy is now long gone. That won't be back in a hurry. There are others talking of doing similar things, but sim racing is always a good place to start. You learn an awful lot. You learn some racecraft, you learn circuits, and you do, if you're using them properly, learn about chassis changes and dynamics. But ultimately, you've got to have some deep pockets. Talent alone will not get you here, and you've got to put yourself in front of everybody that you can at every opportunity, and really sell yourself every single day to be here. But unless you've probably got £1 million to invest in your career, unless you're Jan Mardenborough and you're going to come through the GTA Academy, then it's not really realistic to think you're going to make it.
I was hoping somebody would ask the question that's about to be asked via Twitter. Reynard Gelderblom asks, apart from Nico Hulkenberg, has anyone ever won overall on their debut? I knew somebody might ask that question, so I prepared it. I prepared it in advance because Earl Bamber is one of those.
Correct.
Earl Bamber, with his teammate, he is sharing the same car. But there were quite a few beforehand. The first one to win on their debut, obviously, Henri Lagache and René Léonard, the drivers who won the very first. You had to wait 5 years before Bernard Rubin and Wolf Bonato did it in the Bentley. Fantastic combination, those two. Luigi Cinetti was next in 32. Tazio Nuvolari, 1933. One of the greatest racing drivers the world has ever seen, possibly even the greatest ever. Philippe Étincelin, a year later in 35, did it. Luis Fontes in 35, he did it. Jean-Pierre Vimille in 37. Peter Walker in 51. Fritz Rice and Hermann Lang in 1952. Ivor Bude in the Jaguar alongside Mike Hawthorne in 1955, he did it. 1967, A.J. Foyt. A.J. Foyt won on his debut at the Le Mans 24 Hours. Hurley Haywood in 1977. Klaus Ludwig in 1979. He won on his debut. So too did another one of our British heroes, Andy Wallace, in 1988. He won on his debut in fine style in the Jaguar. Christophe Bouchou and Eric Ellery in 1993 in the Peugeot. They won on their debut. The youngest ever winner of the Le Mans 24 Hour, Alexander Wurz. He won on his debut in 1996. Somebody called Tom Christensen won on his debut as well. 1997, his very first win out of the 9 that eventually he achieved. And the last one in that list, in 1998 in the Porsche, Laurent Aiello.
Just looking at car 36, Menezes is under investigation for a pit stop infringement. I don't know what that would be. That last stop looked pretty clean other than the issue with the gun. It may be that they brought the second gun out over the line without returning the other one. I do think the rules clearly state you're only allowed one gun over the line, so I suspect we're going to see a penalty for 36, which is what we were talking about after the stop. It just looked clunky, it didn't look drilled. I'm quite sure they would have drilled that stop, so I suspect we're about to see a penalty for 36, and it will be down to having two wheel guns over the line.
That's a fatigue issue, isn't it? I don't think that's a skill issue.
Exactly, no, it is. It's just that's when you're really tested. You're really tested when these things come up, when that problem happens. You know, if you're just doing the routine, it's pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward. You just get into that routine. When that routine's broken, that's when you see the problems. You know, if you see a car go in the wall, that's the point where, okay, right, hang on, well, things can get left loose, things don't get done, the correct checks don't happen. And we saw that with the Tillier car. They were obviously panicking to get that car out, and ultimately they missed something that was a car retiring issue, despite the fact you've driven the car back from the scene of the accident.
Well, if you're watching the GTE Pro battle as closely as I know many of you are, it's going to get very interesting very quickly. Dirk Müller,
14 seconds.
Dirk Müller has dropped that gap from 24 seconds 4 laps ago to just 14. He's taking, on average, 2.5 seconds per lap out of Malucelli's lead. Ferrari are going to be sweating very quickly.
Equally, Conway's taking time out of the lead gap, so Conway now got that gap up to 7.5 seconds. So our key battles now really are the LMP1 battle and the GTE Pro battle.
Of course, there's a very
on track.
There's a very good chance that could become the LMP2 battle as well now if Menezes gets that penalty.
Yeah, I mean, if Menezes gets that penalty, Johnny Kane's now fairly well established in third. Shaitar's now 8.4 behind Johnny, and that's going to be down to driver rotation. This is the thing with LMP2. The most critical thing in P2 is how your silver driver goes. You know, we've got Nick Leventis going into the Straka. Nick had made a few mistakes over the years, but if he's driving the best he's ever driven, I would say. So I'd be wise to probably put your money on that Gibson. The mistakes seem to have gone from his driving. He used to make them regularly, but you know, he's had the consistency of Danny and Johnny with him now for, what is it now? Is it this the 9th year?
9 years, yeah.
And yeah, they've got the consistency. They've worked with him a lot. He spends an awful lot of time driving Formula Renault 3.5 cars to make sure he's got that consistency and pace across a stint. So you know, I think let's see, but my money there would be on the Gibson of the Straka Racing crew to sustain that third place on the podium, if given good reliability.
This is year 10.
5 good laps here for me, buddy.
5 good laps for the 68, that's what they're after. So
Yeah, the gap's down to 12.4 now.
But Dirk being pushed to do more.
I was just going to say, with Straka, it's their 10th year since they were founded in 2007, and it's their 9th appearance at Le Mans, I believe.
Yeah, I remember their first Brit Car 24-hour race, which I was competing in when they had the BMW M3, one of the ex-IMSA cars, old GT2 BMW V8 GTR, and you know, they very quickly came here and got the job done. You know, they're past victors here. Let's not forget that.
Am I right in thinking that was a race where you competed against some Top Gear people?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, no, there were the Top Gear clowns were there.
And I bet that was irritating at times, when, particularly on track.
Yeah, no, they struggled, bless them. But,
That's so polite.
I can't say much because that year we were running. I was team managing a team that wasn't quite up to standard. A team of volunteers that we struggled an awful lot through the night, and I've still got the scars to prove it from changing alternators myself because Chief Mechanic refused to do it.
Wow. Okay. That's what that is. I did wonder. So the Ford 68 is pushing on big time. The gap is down to 12 seconds now. As he comes across the line again, that gap's going to decrease again. There's Malucelli over the line, and he's done a 3:57.0 Muller behind is in 353s at the moment. This is a massive, massive gap that has come down to a very, very small one. The gap's down to 10-0. He's just on a 352.9. Ford are not giving up at all. If anything, they are throwing everything by the kitchen sink at Ferrari.
Manuchelli just doesn't seem to have an answer. I don't know whether they want to race it, because let's face it, catching him is one thing, passing him is another. But Manuchelli just driving the thing very well consistently and not responding to the pressure coming from behind.
How long has he been in the car? If this is his third stint.
Manuchelli and Müller went in at the same time. No, this is not their third stint.
So this is interesting, because you might want to think straight away, well, what about getting Physico in the car?
Yeah.
But it's not right for the strategy. They might just have to let them go.
It's down to driver time as well, making sure that everything works in terms of that. But let's see, I mean, Giancarlo came out the car just as we came on shift. We've been on now for nearly 4 hours. So it is about that sort of time where you would be thinking he'll certainly be being woken up and spoken to about, right, you know, we think we're going to put you in next. But let's see. Yeah, the AF guys have done a fantastic. Sorry, the Risi guys have done a fantastic job so far. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So just keep going around. Catching them is one thing, passing them is another.
The Porsche goes, oh, we've had a collision. That's the two American cars, the Krone Racing and the Michael Shank Racing.
Car. What happened there?
I want to see how that happened again, because it looks as if they're just battling for position. Oh, no.
For a change.
Three American cars all together, and for once, the ESM doesn't get involved in it.
Yeah, and poor old Tracy Krone, a victim, because Tracy's, he's had a few issues so far, but that car being assaulted, no shadow of a doubt about that.
That was under braking. John Pugh just losing the back end of the car and it veering off to the left. And, well, poor Tracy Krone, completely blameless in that one. Down to the Mulsanne. We ride on board with the Ford. I hope we stay with this one, actually. We're going to get radio from Murphy, though. No, we're not. I was disappointed. I was hoping we could stay on board all the way down the run to the Indianapolis.
10 seconds, Dirk. Good job, buddy. 10 seconds. 4 more laps.
Come on, buddy. Come on, come on.
Pushed to do it, isn't he? He can do it. He will do it. So the investigation on car 40 and 49 underway. I'm just still waiting for news on Menezes 30, car 36, our P2 leaders. Pit stop, potential penalty. I suspect that will be coming shortly. I suspect there's a conversation going on between team manager and the ACO officials at the moment about severity of penalty, but that one should be relatively minor. It wasn't a safety offence. They weren't going to hurt anybody with that.
Well, the gap is 9.9 thanks to traffic. 9.5, I should say, sorry, thanks to traffic, because he's actually losing time to Manuchelli on this lap because of the traffic. There's Anthony Davidson, just consulting with the Toyota squad. How are things looking? Can we win this? The answer at the moment is, you certainly can, mate. And there's another man who's had a long, long career in motor racing with everything but the jewel in the crown. Formula One didn't really do him any favours, despite the fact he was better than any Formula One car he was ever given, in my personal opinion. But the Le Mans 24 Hours has been reasonably kind to Anthony Davidson, but it's never given him the victory he deserves. And what an obscure career Anthony Davidson has had at Le Mans. It's almost in two halves, really. 2003, he got the Velox ProDrive Ferrari GTS role. That was in the middle of him being a test driver for BAR Honda. He also raced, of course, with Super Aguri in the 2007 and 8 seasons. Did 2 races for BAR. Did one for Minardi. No, sorry, he did 1 race for BAR. That was the 2005 Malaysian Grand Prix, if memory serves me correctly. And then he did 1 race in Hungary, 2002 for Minardi. He is the World Endurance Champion from 2014, so he knows what he's doing. He was one of the lead drivers in the Aston Martin Lola project in 2009, another LMP1 team, and he was the Peugeot man for 2 years. So it was 2012 that Toyota made their debut in the Le Mans 24 Hours with this project, not 2013. I'll correct myself now, because Davidson, this is his 5th campaign at the Le Mans 24 Hours with Toyota. And surely, with his colleague, Sebastian Buemi, and their other man, Kazuki Nakajima, at the wheel, this time, they could do it. They really could do it. We're on board with the Porsche. Mark Lieb, 3.4 seconds back. as into the pits comes the number 40 Krone car. And I would not be surprised if the Michael Shank Racing car is not far behind it. While into the pits comes the ESM, the number 31. So it's still Toyotas 1 and 2. 25 seconds is the gap. Conway just steadily closing up on car number 5. There's the number 2 Porsche going with him in terms of lap times. The leading car for Wemi is on 3:28. Conway and Jarvis in the Audi now are on 3:26s. Into the pits comes the Michael Shank Racing car, right on cue. After that little tangle with the Chrome car. And then into the pit, Lieb is the fastest. There he is, you're looking at him. 3:25.2. Down the straight. See, the car's slowing very early for the chicane there. The Porsche, they're just being a little bit conservative perhaps, because normally during an aggressive part of the race, you'd be braking about 100 meters before the corner. But he's easing off the throttle a good 250 meters before the chicane. Ah, that'll be it. Yep, fuel saving.
Lift and coast. They're already working the strategy towards the end of the race. They're already thinking about it.
Yep, he's done it again.
Yeah, lift and coast. That's that the engineers have worked out what they need to do to save a pit stop. And the pace is there to do it. So this is some clever strategy by the Porsche boys, and that says to me they're pretty confident.
The Monday Missile, just over 5 hours to go. The number 1 Porsche in 29th and a few laps behind. Any predictions on where they might finish?
No, but the sums I did do is that they're going to be eligible for points. They're going to make the cut. So, no, I wouldn't like to guess where they're going to end up. But if they carry on not losing ground to the number 5 or to the winner, whoever the winner may be, then they're going to get their WEC points. And that's a really important thing.
Am I right in thinking they're actually 6th in class? They are now ahead of the Rebellions.
And it's a double points, so it's for them it's absolutely critical to carry on. It might be the difference at the end of the year between World Championships or not, both for the manufacturer and for the team themselves.
And that, of course, is the reigning World Endurance Championship winning car, driven by Timo Bernhardt, Mark Webber and Brendan Hartley. So they've got every reason to push. They've got every reason to bank home the points. They've got every reason not to give up. There are still 150 drivers, 50 cars still running this race. Mike Conway, 5.3 ahead of Mark Lieb in the leading Porsche in the battle, 3rd position overall. The helicopters are starting to fly in overhead again now. People want to get here in time for the finish, and what a finish they're going to see.
I've just been outside, and actually it's lovely. It's a lovely fresh morning. It's not too hot. The sun is relatively warm, and I suspect by midday it's going to be very warm. No, the circuit now well rubbered in, and this is the best of the conditions these guys are going to get in terms of visibility and everything else. I think we've seen the fastest time has been set earlier this morning. I'd be surprised to see anyone go faster now, but yeah, clear run to the end by the looks of it.
Toyota 1 and 2, the gap is 22.7 seconds. As into the pits comes the SRT 41, the Garage 56 entry. So they're still ticking over. Again, I've not seen them spin, I've not seen them hit anything, I've not seen them blocking anybody stupidly.
Just a solid run.
That's exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Full credit to everyone in that crew. From Frederick to Christophe to Jean-Bernard, all 3 of the drivers, all of the mechanics, they've been absolutely spot on. They're not here to win, they're here to finish, and they're doing so competitively.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the gap now into the Audi number 8, we were getting quite excited that they might be able to pull something out of the bag. They're still setting fastest LMP1 times, but they just don't seem to be able to claw that back. I kind of said, we'll look in an hour at the 6 hour point as to where they were, and frankly they haven't closed the gap enough. I would have thought by now they'd be on the lead lap, but they're actually ebbing and flowing between 1 and 2 laps down on the timing screen based on what's going on where they are on circuit. So, you know, Jarvis not being able to take the time out of the lead cars, the Audi just not got the pace.
Jeff GMJ, I should say, on Twitter says, what year did chicanes get added to the Mulsanne Straight? I can help you with that one. That's 1990. And what speed was possible before they were added? Now, that is very much under debate, because there are some people who can claim they were pushing cars at 235. some that say you could even stretch it to 240, which is mind-blowing. That is just absolutely insanity, if you ask me. But as pure as it is to go from Tertre Rouge all the way to Mulsanne without chicanes, we've seen far too many incidents in the past, far too many problems, and far too many people who are sadly no longer with us to attest to the fact we needed to put those chicanes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the graphic on the screen now, so we've got the Toyota versus the Porsche. The gap down to 3 seconds between Lieb and Conway. And just interesting to see the way those guys are again delivering the power and how that gap changes depending where they are on the straight. The Audi quicker onto the straight with its Quattro system, deploying its energy through the front wheels, while the Porsche is deploying its energy through the back, and yeah, really romping away at the end of the straight. Here we go, on board with the number 2. 3 seconds now the gap, so Conway's got away a bit. That'll be a bit of traffic somewhere along the line. There is Conway coming up onto the back of one of the Fords through the Porsche curves. He can get away with ducking through there, but what that's going to mean with that 3 second gap is that we're going to see Lieb get stuck behind him through the bit where you can't really overtake. This section here, we see, yeah, Prototype going around the outside. I think that I'm not used to the fact there's so much more runoff there than there used to be, and they couldn't do it.
He didn't get held up. He managed to wait.
He did manage to just wait through. I don't know whether he bided his time there. I think at the split we're going to see that he did lose a bit of time compared to 1.8.
Oh, I think he's
took time
right
out
on
of him. Yeah.
He's right on him.
Took time out of him. 1.8.
So that was smart thinking there. And he's going to get past the Greaves Ligier, no problem. The gap is down to a second, by a second. It's down to 1.8 now.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the gap between Buemi and Conway, the two Toyotas, is down to, well, it was down to 20.
Seconds.
It was down to 22, but you've got to take into account that Buemi has just been given the hurry up, and Conway's just lost about 2-3 seconds in the traffic. So at the rate of knots he was going, though, Conway was taking about 2.5 seconds per lap out of Buemi in the lead. So maybe Buemi saying those tyres are falling off. Again, he's starting to struggle a little bit. But the thing is, if your tyres are falling off, you can't just dive for the pits and get a new set. You've got to work to the programme. So you've just got to make the tyres last as long as you physically can.
As we've seen with the lift and coast that's going on at the moment, it is as much about fuel numbers as anything else. They need to make sure that they're on the money in terms of fuel numbers and bringing the car home on the minimum number of stops. So you might sacrifice a little on ultimate performance, but bear in mind you're losing 1 minute and 10 seconds every time you bring that car through the pit lane as a minimum without taking tyres.
We're on lap 300 of the Le Mans 24 hours. There are 5 hours to go, and the gap from first to third, I can't believe I'm about to say this. The gap between first and third is 27 seconds. Now, in the past, that would be 27 laps. It's 27 seconds from first to third. I love the Le Mans 24 hours nowadays.
Yeah, it's very tight. It's
so close.
It's just whether Mark Lieb can get round. Here we go. One going either side of the traffic there on the way out of the second chicane. And then top speed, the Toyota's probably just going to inch it. They go braking down into the into Mulsanne.
This is an absolutely fantastic battle. The pendulum keeps swinging to and fro between these two cars. One gets an advantage, the other one gets a deficit, and then they swap over on the next lap. It's a brilliant little jostle for gap position. Let's listen.
The Porsche up in 7th gear, the Toyota with just the 6 speeds.
Here we go. Easing off early.
Yeah,
Coast
lift and coast through Indy. That's one of the places where you can save a big chunk because it's a very quick corner anyway that isn't flat, no matter what. So you can save a big chunk of fuel there.
And yet, even with lift and coast, the gap is down to a second.
Yeah,
He's now a second.
What we don't know is how much Conway's doing as well. So they might all be in the same boat, and therefore we're not seeing the ultimate from them, which, you know, let's see what Conway's lap time is this time, but Conway lost a bit in each sector again to Lieb.
We've got to be thinking about pit stops again soon. It's got to be, what, 4 or 5 laps
where
away?
are we are, Conway is on
Lap 300.
That's going to be 300. So yeah, Conway is 3 laps away from a stop.
3 laps away from a stop. Okay, so that means that Buemi's not far from it either.
Yeah, Buemi and Conway are a lap out of sync, so the number 6 is stopping before the number 5.
And Lieb, I believe, is 2 laps out of sync. Or is it 3?
Lieb is, yes, 290. 3 laps out of sync.
3 laps out of sync, okay.
It should be 1-1-1, basically, I think, the way it's going to pan out.
Marco Cortese asks us on Twitter, is the 70% of the LMP1L class calculated on the overall winner or on the best LMP1L? That would make a big difference.
It does make a difference because you've got to cross the line.
Okay.
So for LMP1L, there is only 1 car running. It will be 70% of the race winner, unfortunately, which, again, I think actually they will just make the cut. Depends how much time they lose now. As things stand, they're right on the cusp as things stand.
Interestingly, the 13 Rebellion is in the pits, has been for a while, but they're not retired yet. They're not officially in retirement.
No, I think the door is down, though. I think we saw the door come down. I think that's just somebody hasn't gone up to the timekeepers and said, we're out.
We're out. Avery Hage on Twitter says, the fastest ever Mulsanne speed was in a WM Peugeot P88 in 1988 by the fantastic French talent Roger Dorsey. He did 200, get this, 252 miles an hour. That is Veyron territory. That's astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
So on the track, we've now got the Ferrari and the Ford in the pits. The gap down to 3 seconds as Dirk Müller brought the car in. So Malicelli has lost an awful lot of time there. Those guys are pitting same lap, strategy exactly the same, and they're on the same point in the driver rotation. It's whether these guys are going to double stint the drivers to the end in the GTE class. Typically here you would. In a WEC race, we have seen them going between stops, but it is different here. The tyre wear is different, and the way they're using the fuel is very different. So Malicelli's out, while Müller, Joey Hand in. So no, driver change for the Ford, while Malicelli stayed in. So exactly as we were saying, some different bits there. So a single stint now, likely, I would say, for Joey Hand.
Maybe, just maybe, a fresh set of hands at the wheel could be the difference between them taking the lead off the Ferrari.
What's strange, though, is Malicelli didn't change driver, and the Ford was only 5 seconds longer with a driver change in the pits.
That's very true. Problems at Ferrari?
Well, Malicelli took tyres, clearly, because of the 130 stop, but didn't change driver. So I don't understand why you wouldn't put a fresh driver in at that point. You know, Dirk Müller had done a fantastic job of closing that gap, but at the end of the day, if you're going to have to do tyres on every stop, which is what it seems that they're now doing, you would change the driver out because it doesn't cost you anything. So,
and if I was Rinzi Competizioni's boss, I'd have put Fisichella in the car at that point.
Yeah, I think that would work from a driver rotation point of view. So the gap back up to 7.5 seconds, because they did lose a small amount of time with the driver change and the tyres. But yeah, Malicelli 7 seconds up the road. Joey Hand with fresh tyres, Malicelli with fresh tyres, but Hand dialing himself into the car. Let's see where he goes. Slower first sector. 3 seconds slower than Malicelli, but that's the battle now. Really, that's where we are. The gap at the front seems pretty consistent at the front of the LMP1 category. We have just had a purple sector, fastest overall sector time from Mark Lieb in sector 3, 91.9 seconds through there versus 92.85. For Mike Conway, so they really are throwing it down the road. 3:22.9 for both of them on the last lap.
Great job. Keep pushing.
He certainly is. He is doing a cracking job here, Mark Lieb.
But 3:22 last lap for both of those two, and then we'll wait for the sector times now from Malicelli and Hand in the other major battle on track. But 7.4 seconds now, the gap. So Hand not losing anything on this outlap, despite the fact that he's just jumped straight in that car fresh. He's not bedded in the way Malicelli is.
Well, in the LMP2 battle, getting that penalty for the Signatech Alpine has now put it on the same lap as the team in second place, the G-Drive Oreca. Now, that is significant because they are losing a second a lap at the moment to René Rast in the Oreca. That's not going to be enough per lap to catch them up, but if anything more happens to that Signatech Alpine now, if they have a duff pit stop, if something goes wrong, and they're vulnerable.
Interestingly, Kane and Scheitar gap. Kane's now stretched that gap out to 26.2 seconds, so he's going very well at pulling away. So yeah, no, we'll continue to watch how that one flows, but Han through the next sector, losing a tiny amount of time, 7.4 seconds now. But I suspect he's going to be getting exactly the same message that the race engineer from Chip Ganassi Racing has been giving of, right, get your head down, just push, push, push. We've got to catch Malicelli, and I think ultimately they need to pass him on track. It's all about track position now. If they're going to take tyres at every single stop, can one or other of them get away with double stinting a set of tyres, take 25 seconds out of the other and then not lose it over the stint? That's the question.
Still Mark Lieb pushing after Mike Conway, and in the first sector he was quicker, in the second he wasn't. So they are pretty much equal in terms of pace at the moment. There is Kamui Kobayashi getting himself ready to saddle up in car number 6. So he's going to take over from Mike Conway next, it would seem. That's right in terms of the rotation, because it was Sarrazin, it's now Conway, it's going to be Kobayashi. You have to say, of the drivers that have been in F1 recently to make the switch across to sports cars, Kobayashi really suits it.
He absolutely does. You know, he's done a fantastic job recently. When he's far outperformed his F1 performances here. So yeah, we're just seeing now on the screen there the Toyota and the Porsche running together. The gap the gap is whatever the traffic is. So let's see how it pans out. I suspect that Lieb wants to get past. Lieb's going to try and get track position. As much as anything else, it's a mental thing, isn't it? You've got past him, you know what you can do. I mean, the gap, half a second, you know, it's he's there, he's on him. So
is Conway now on the 14th lap of the stint? Because I think he's stretched it.
Conway is now 9.
3:03 we're on now.
No, this will be Conway in on this lap.
Conway will be in on this lap. So no wonder Mark Lieb wants to overtake him. He wants a psychological upper hand here, because Conway's coming in at the end of this lap, whatever happens. So Mark Lieb will want to get a good run. And out of Tertre Rouge, both cars look pretty much evenly matched. Mark Lieb might not get a chance to get the overtake here until they get the run down to Mulsanne, I would have thought.
Yeah,
and even then,
it's going to be there, and the thing is the Toyota's very strong there. So let's see. You know, he's going to want that track position. No shadow of a doubt about that. You know, no point in just sitting behind unless he has got to do some serious fuel saving. We know he has been doing lift and coast, but equally, Buemi's now 22 seconds up the road. They are closing the gap on Buemi because they've been pushing each other along. But still a little way to go before we find out where that's going to pan out with fuel strategy.
Proud South African on Twitter. What is the difference in amount of fuel used by a 956 in the 1980s and a 919 today? That's a very bizarre question.
I have no idea.
The fuel technology is so different now compared to what it was 30 years ago. You can't really compare the two.
No, absolutely. I don't know. Don't know the answer.
It's a tough question, but it's not. That's the one for engineers rather than racing fanatics and team bosses. We don't do that kind of science. The number 8 Audi still pushing on, though. That's worth mentioning, actually, because Oliver Jarvis... Yep, just confirming what we knew. Mike Conway at this next pit stop, he's coming in, and there will be a driver change for Kamui Kobayashi. The fastest man on track at the moment amongst the LMP1s on the previous lap was Oliver Jarvis. He did a 3:24.1 compared to Lieb in front on a 3:24.4, a 3:24.9 for Conway, and a 3:27.8 for Buemi. So he's getting caught up badly in the traffic there. Kobayashi's ready to go, and this is a critical stint for Kamui Kobayashi. This is the first time we'll really get to see what value he is to the Toyota project.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job so far. So Porsche confirming number of laps to go, and Louise has got a TV interview for us.
Well, as we know, as we know, Ford have got a huge heritage here at Le Mans. Chip, does that give the team more pressure, or does that give you more driving force?
Well, you know, obviously, it's a lot. It's a lot. And to have the support here this weekend from the management of Ford, the Ford family, a lot of people here, a lot of eyes on the program. And as you said, there's a lot of history in it. So it's a motivator.
And are you pleased with how it's turning out so far?
So far, yes. I mean, we've, you know, the cars are very competitive. As you can see, we led a bunch and we gave a little back here, but we seem to be closing back in a little bit to the front. So it's going to be an exciting last 5 hours or so.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Joey Hand closing the gap now to 6.1 seconds to Malicelli. So managing the gap, Malicelli, I don't know. I don't know whether it's managing the gap or just Hand taking his time to reel him in and we're having to work through the traffic. So that's going to be a race to the end. As long as we have no reliability issues, you know, that's just going to be a dogfight. The last hour, it's going to be who doesn't make the mistake in traffic, does it? So it'll be good to see where it pans out. So the gaps now in terms of Conway to Lieb. Conway is now 6.2 behind Mark Lieb and is in the pits.
Yep.
As expected.
Conway out, Kobayashi in. That's the Toyota strategy now. Just doing a full service. This will be around a 1 minute 30-ish.
Yep. For
the pit stop time. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Mark Lieb is going to have a driver change there as well. Sebastian Buemi, they must be thinking about getting him out of the car, and I would guess
it's going to be Davidson into the on rotation.
There we go. Mark Lieb coming in this lap. So the Porsche team, they only ran 1 lap longer than the number 6 Toyota on this stint. Now, is that a 13 lap they've just done?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've actually moved to cover. They can go 14. We know they can because they've done it. So
no, that will be a 14.
Oh, that will be a 14. Okay.
So that is them now starting to stretch it, which is what we heard when we were on board the lift and coast. So they can only do those 14s when they're doing that fuel saving. They can't do a 14 lapper unless they're on a fuel saving strategy.
Great battle this, and it's just getting better as the hours tick down. 4 hours and 48 to go. We're only in the box for another hour and 48 minutes before we hand over to Julian and Peter. Julian Porter and Peter Dunbreg. There's Anthony Davidson getting himself ready. Cometh the hour, Anthony. You've been here before. So we are only going to get, I think, 2 more driver changes, including this one. Anthony Davidson, and then he'll hand over to, I would have thought, Kazuki Nakajima. Anthony Davidson is motivated. He just looked at the camera. Punch of the fist. He feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony Davidson's going to go out there and start chasing the lead. Well, he is in the lead, sorry. He's going to be driving away, hopefully, in the same way that Buemi did in the first stint of this driver rotation. He desperately tried to pull the gap, built up that 35-second gap, which is now back down to 17 to Lieb. But let's see, maybe Davidson will take a different approach to it and just try and eke it out more over the stint, keep the life in the tyres. There'll probably be a compound change going on now. They're not going to tell us, but the track temperature's coming up, and Buemi having reported the tyres going away fairly early on, really, in the second part of this run. I suspect it will be. And look, Davidson there rocking, ready to get in the car, completely fired up.
That's a world champion in waiting. Again, 2016 could be his year again for the second time. The Toyota's still looking very good, but the one thing he hasn't got in his career, he's done Formula 1, he's done Formula 3000, he's done the World Endurance Championship and won it. The one thing missing is a Le Mans 24-hour victory. And this year, maybe, just maybe, they've got it right. It was interesting you were talking about tyre compounds, because John Owens on Twitter must have been reading your mind, because he asked a question a few minutes ago. As the track warms up, what kind of compounds do we expect the teams to run and why? Now, that's a right-on-the-button question.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be going to a harder rubber compound, probably the same tyre construction, so the actual sidewall of the tyre and the carcass, the top surface of the tyre, will be very similar, because that's defined by how the suspension works on the car. You don't want to be changing the construction because then you start changing the wheel rate. But the actual rubber that's on the surface of the tyre is a different hardness. So you go to a harder compound as the temperature comes up. And during the night, they will have gone to a very soft compound that they'll have been able to run right through. And then different compounds on wets, intermediates and slicks. So an abundance of things they can do, along with air pressure changes.
Is that the Porsche getting out in front of the Toyota? I
Yeah,
think it is. They've jumped the Toyotas.
They have. We would have been expecting that with the way that gap's gone. So that's now 6.5.
Yeah, true,
to
I
Davidson.
suppose.
So that's
Psychological game
expected.
plan, though. Psychological game plan for Porsche. They have managed to jump the Toyotas. So now it's up to Davidson and Kobayashi, 2 drivers who don't have a second speed other than flat out.
Yeah, let's see where he is. Lieb on his out lap now, so that's
Down the Mulsanne.
3:04, and Davidson
6.5 seconds back, roughly. Yep, 6.6. So it's this is going to be a very interesting stint. I mean, Lieb has been in, done a short pit stop, 1 minute 6. The 2 Toyotas have done a full service stop, and so they're out in 6.6.
I think that's the thing that you've got to see. That's a full service. So if they can go further, then let's see. You know, it's going to come down to, if the gaps stay as they are, who can double or triple stint tyres.
Yeah.
And where we are with fuel loads. If it stays as it is, it's going to be the pit wall that wins this race. If it stays as it is.
Look at that. Yes, we know. It really is
Absolutely.
that tight.
So Louis just mentioning that Ollie Jarvis is now into the pits. So he's still at that lap behind. Still not managed to break that gap. He was quickest.
Okay, so that's Lieb's 3rd stint on the tyre. He just refueled.
Which we know, yeah. So that's them telling Anthony Davidson that he should push because he's on fresher tyres, similar fuel load now, and he's got the opportunity to get back past on track. So they really are treating this as a true sprint race. They're not trying to say to him, look, don't worry, you know, we've got 4 hours and 43 minutes to go.
We haven't. No, we haven't.
They're saying just get on with it.
Not as far as
it's about track position.
Yeah, not as far as they're concerned. That is, though, the last that we will see of Sebastian Buemi and your man in the number 6, Mike Conway. That's the last they've done, I think.
I wouldn't bet on it. It just depends how this driver rotation works out. They may get him for the end, those guys. I wouldn't be surprised to see Conway put in for the end.
Good point.
It just depends how things pan out in terms of fuel and tyres. And again, they're going to be working this all the way through now, looking at where we are in terms of running order, if we have a safety car, whether they can make advantage of that to jump ahead or to even save a stop somewhere. So lift and coast is certainly what's going on at Porsche. We know that. We know that they need to do that to eke the fuel mileage. However, the Toyota seems to be able to run flat out for that longer 14-lap stint.
Davidson getting on with it. The gap down to 5.3 seconds. He is large and in charge in that car.
And Kobayashi matching him sector for sector. In fact, Kobayashi quicker.
Yeah, he is quicker.
Sector, which is going to be traffic. But until then, they've just been matching each other sector for sector for sector. So let's see. Kobayashi's going to be giving it the message too. And Kamui proved here 2 years ago exactly what he can do. So let's see. He's going to try. Mark Lieb comes across to complete his 305th lap. That's their out lap complete now. Davidson gap up to 6 on the nose, and then we'll wait for Kobayashi.
There is not much in this at all. 6 seconds is currently the gap. Davidson is flying, and the Porsche, yes, they've got a good strategy, held up by the Murphy.
I think this is it. I think it goes back to what we said right at the start of the race in terms of this 14-lap stint that Toyota seemed confident and capable of doing. That could be the difference here. You know, if they can eke just that over the next 4.5 hours, they're taking that 1 lap extra, and the Porsche, they push the Porsche hard enough that he can't lift and coast to get to the 14-lap stint. That could be the difference. That's going to be the half a pit stop, the splash and dash that they need to win this race.
Yep, Philip Pond asking, as it's looking now, roughly, how many pit stops do the leaders have left each? And will Toyota be able to do one less?
It's going to be 5 stops, but Toyota without doubt can do one less.
That could be the turning point in the race then.
And this is my point with Conway. It's whether they're going to put Conway back in. You know, it may be that Lieb has to do 6. We just don't. I wouldn't like to calculate it back now because I don't know what's really going on, and I don't necessarily think we've seen the true hand in terms of what they can achieve on fuel mileage yet. You know, it may be that the Porsche can genuinely go that little bit further on fuel mileage, and they can comfortably do the 14. But they've been choosing to take the fuel 13, run lighter, faster for a shorter amount of time. We don't know. That's what's fascinating about Le Mans.
So down in the pits, we have Louise Beckett.
Sebastian Buemi's just been out on the pit wall speaking to the team. I suppose now it's what you can get out of your tyres for the rest of the race.
Yeah, exactly. We seem to be very strong at the start when the tyres are new, and then it's difficult to keep up the pace, especially in the third stint. So I don't think we will finish on the same tyres. We might change spec a bit later in the day, but yeah, it's gonna be hard.
Thank you.
Exactly what you were suggesting, Giles.
Yeah, I thought they would have changed now. So I think what he's saying there is they've stayed on the same compound, interestingly. Now, I would have thought the tarmac temperature, with the track temperature, would have been coming up quicker now with the sunshine we've got than it will do later in the day. It wasn't that cold last night. I was walking through the paddock in a t-shirt and it was probably 13, 14 degrees. So the track will have retained a lot of the temperature, sort of 22, 23 degrees. And I would suspect that by midday we'll see the track temperature up at high 30s.
Oh, this is a critical...
If it stays as it is. Porsche holding up a Porsche.
Yep, critical block there. That's going to cost him at least a second if the Toyota doesn't get the same amount of...
Davidson down
blocking.
to 4.
Down to 4 seconds. It's so close. And if Toyota can do one less stop than Porsche, they are looking incredibly strong. Porsche are running scared here. Let's not forget, though, about this Ford battle.
Joey Hand now, gap down to 3. The
It's a visual
cars
gap.
are sitting next to each other,
Yep.
and we're seeing them come through the Ford chicane together.
It's a visual gap, the battle for the prototype, the GTE Pro category, sorry, and for the prototypes. It's a visual gap in both classes.
Menezes in the LMP2 category, he's still got this 1 lap cushion over Will Stevens.
That was a little over a second quicker than the leader.
Yeah, I think Joey Hand is being given the praise of come on, go, 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 go. Joey's not renowned for his out-and-out pace, but he is a very safe pair of hands.
Well, he took 2.8 on the last lap, and the gap is only 3.2. If he does it again, Ford are right back in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Malicelli's the weaker of the Ferrari drivers, though. I think that's the thing that you've got to think. That if they put Fisichella back in that car, Fisichella starts pumping in the times that he was last night. Fisichella potentially can drive away from them. I think that's why Joey Hand's in the Ford now. I think they're getting Hand through his cycle now so that they can put their faster drivers in when Fisichella gets in that car.
This is going to be such a close fight to the finish. I genuinely cannot remember a Le Mans 24 Hours with this much drama in it that wasn't in a DVD on my fiction shelf. That's referring, of course, to the 1970 movie Le Mans, Steve McQueen. I genuinely can't remember. Josh Robbins, what's the record number of lead changes at Le Mans 24? We must be close to it this year, he says. Can't tell you that one. I don't have that statistic to hand, but I tell you what, you're probably right. It really has ebbed and flowed, and it's ebbed and flowed between all 3 manufacturers. Yes, okay, Audi only led 2 laps, but before that turbocharger blew, they took that lead on merit. And they are still fighting their way back. They're still only a lap off the lead. Oliver Jarvis still banging in very strong times.
Yeah, Jarvis is, what was he that last lap through? So he matched in effect Kobayashi and Davidson in the Toyotas, and they took 2 seconds out of Mark Lieb. So the gap, the lead now down to 4. So we've now got 4 and 3 seconds in our 2 key on-track battles in the lead battles in LMP1 and in GTE Pro. Malicelli and Hand come through across the line now. 271 laps completed. 3 seconds remains the gap, and then just behind them we see the number 7 Audi coming across the line. No more playing going on with that car as far as we can tell, to play testing for the number 8. Ollie Jarvis just getting on with the job now. Jarvis, the quicker of those drivers in the number 4. It's from in the number 8 from what we've seen, but just not making inroads. The race at the front is just too fast for Audi.
Yeah, they might get a podium if one of the cars at the front kicks the bucket, but it's starting to slip away from Audi a little bit now. We shouldn't count them out. There is still 4.5 hours to go.
2 hours ago, when they were pumping the times in, I thought that they were going to achieve it. I thought that this was the turn of pace that we were going to see. The track had come to them. They'd done their homework on the number 7 car. They'd transferred those settings onto the number 8 car, and they knew what they needed to do. But that just hasn't materialised. The out-and-out pace is not there as the leaders come through past us now. So again, that visual gap across the line goes Davidson, gap of 4.5, so the gap goes out slightly. We see on screen the GTE Pro battle as the number 1 Porsche comes past them. Number 1 Porsche still on for its WEC points, but a long way down the order. That is it. You're looking straight at the leader now, on board from Joey Hand.
I was going to say, let's listen, but they always cut away just when we want to hear what that Ford GT is like on the power. Maybe they'll get back to it on the Mulsanne. Here we go. Feathering the throttle through that first corner. Some ease off, but they're going for it. Joey Hand is on full maximum attack.
Yeah, these GTE cars will not be fuel saving. There is no point in these guys fuel saving. They're on the same strategy. They can do the same number of laps. They're on the similar driver rotation. They're taking tyres at every stop. There's no point in them doing that. They're just going hammer and tongs, absolutely flat out, lap for lap. Hand lost a little there on that last lap to Malicelli. Gap back up to 1.6.
It's still only 1.6 though.
Yeah, after nearly 20 hours of racing, absolutely. Davidson now the gap at 5.4, but Kobayashi now coming at Davidson. So Kobayashi's got that gap down by about 1.5 seconds onto Davidson. So I think by the end of this stint, Kobayashi's aim is to be with the Davidson car on the tail. Yeah, 14.7 takes more time out of him now.
So the state of affairs is very close in the LMP1 and the GTE Pro. In LMP2, Menezes has a lap advantage over the 26G drive car with former Formula 1 driver Will Stevens in the car.
And another Formula 1 driver now in the BR01 with Vitaly Petrov.
Vitaly Petrov.
But what's interesting there is we've seen a switch of positions in the LMP2 class. Leventis dropping behind Petrov, which is exactly what we would expect, I think. And I don't think he can match Petrov's pace. So 3:51.7. And now coming through 3:49, so Leventis losing 8 seconds to Petrov on each lap, which is what we'd expect. So again, this is going to come down to driver rotation. Where are we in terms of going through those drivers? I have to say, if I was a betting man, the BR01 in terms of driver pace is probably where I would put my money.
What about in the GTE AM category? The last time we looked at GTE AM, it was a Porsche. It was a Ferrari that was leading the way, the Scuderia Corsa car. Let's have a look at the positions in the GTE AM category and see where they are. I believe the Scuderia Corsa Ferrari is still leading the way. We'll double check on that in a moment.
Yeah, we'll have a look. Sorry, just to get to that on the screen. Just looking at the driver rotation in the LMP2 class with the SMP guys. We've got Victor Scheitar is going to be back in that car next, I believe.
Right.
If I was to put my money on that driving combination, looks to me like Nick Leventis is just a little bit too far off the pace to be able to achieve that podium. As things stand, all things equal with no issues. So Leventis now 24 seconds behind Petrov, with a quicker driver yet to go into the BR01.
This is the battle. Let's listen. Da-da. Da-da. They're getting really close.
He's coming.
So close between the Ford and the Ferrari. Malicelli is now literally only a second or so behind. It's less than that. It's 0.3 of a second. You can see how close it is. Joey Hand trying to rattle the Rizzi Competizione driver, Matteo Malicelli, who is no slouch, and he is a very, very calm and composed driver. So it's not going to be
And
easy
moving
to get
around
past
though
him.
in the braking zone, just trying to spook him. You know, you see him there just saying, I'm going to come. No, I'm not. So the games have started. Magliacelli's not going to make that mistake. You know, he's not been selected by the Ferrari North America backed Risi Competizione team, not easily. Risi, the biggest Ferrari dealer in the world, based in Texas, and they've raced these cars for an awfully long time. They know them inside now. The 488 may be a new car for them, but what they've done here is absolutely astounding. You know, the AF cars have been out of this race for a long time now, the two kind of factory WEC efforts, but Risi doing a fantastic job with that car.
GTE, it's Townsend Bell, the former IndyCar driver, who is leading in the 62 Scuderia Corsa Ferrari. Then it is Khalid Al-Kubaisi in the 88 Abu Dhabi Porsche. And then the 83, it's another Ferrari. It's Rui Aguaz at the wheel of the AF Corsa car. He's sharing with Emmanuel Collard and Francois Perrodo, who was born in Singapore, of course, but he's French nationality. Here we go.
Here comes the pass. Goes to the outside. Magliacelli
so
just
close.
Giving it away. I think Magliacelli blended out of that. There's no way that was a straight drag race. I think Magliacelli thought, no, you have it. You go. You're going to have to go the hard way. I'm going to make you go around the outside, but you can have it. You can have it, and I'm going to chase you for a little while. Let's see how you like it with the headlights flashing away behind you.
It's always easier to chase than it is to be chased, isn't it?
Yeah, so Hand now 0.4 out the road. It'll be interesting to see now if he can drive away from Magliacelli. I don't think he will. I think this is going to be an ongoing battle now for the next 4.5 hours.
Well, how much more can you get out of that Ford to the Ferrari? I know it's quick, and I know he's been gaining ground, but it's the pendulum swinging. How much more can you get out of it?
The balance of performance, you've got to say, is absolutely spot on watching this. You know, there's no shadow of a doubt there that Magliacelli rolled out the throttle to let him pass, but let him go the long way round. It's going to come down to drivers' mistakes. It's going to come down to the boys in the pits, and it's going to come down to how the cars wear their tyres, ultimately. So all the setup work that was done earlier in the week, it's been a very tough week in terms of getting that setup work done. The circuit's been so changeable. There's not been any proper dry running until now. You know, this is the first real true dry running these guys have had, and they're trying to, they don't have the option to come in and change an anti-roll bar setting or change the rake in the car or change some gurneys.
Just got to roll with it.
They've just got to get on with the job. So it is going to be who's done the best job in terms of making sure the car turned up here ready to race.
Anthony Davidson's been held up in some traffic. There's the Porsche. Look back. There's the Toyota. There's nothing in it at all. On come the blinkers. Mark Glebe trying to get the Beechdine Aston Martin out of the way. 3.7 seconds for Anthony Davidson is now the gap. Let's ride on board with the Porsche.
Yeah, taking a lot of road there on the way out of the Dunlop chicane. I'm surprised that he's getting away with that. We've seen an awful lot of track limit warnings going on around the place, particularly the area we're just going through where people have been running very wide on this exit here. So on the way out there, yeah, I mean...
Well, is he going to get away with that?
The rule technically is you can only put your outside wheels on the exit curb. That's by the letter of the law. What they should be doing. I don't know if they've had a discussion at drivers' briefing about that and said, look, actually, it's okay to put the whole car on the exit curb. But certainly there's been plenty of people abusing that, and the race control guys have been clamping down on it. Some penalties issued earlier in the race for that.
That's the gap for the lead of the Le Mans 24 Hours with 19.5 hours gone. Just under 4.5 hours still to go. And it's still as close as that. It's still completely unpredictable which way this is going to go.
Joey Hand's not getting away from Magliacelli, so a second there in that fight, just 1 second. So Magliacelli just thinking, I think he did let Hand past. I think it was Ford, it's your turn to lead, you can pull me round.
Absolutely.
And there may be a degree of fuel saving going on there.
Smart thinking, though, from Magliacelli, because it is easier to be the guy in second place chasing rather than the guy who's holding all the cards in first place.
Especially with 4.5 hours to go. Magliacelli into the second part of this double stint for him, but he's on new tyres. He did take new tyres.
If a Toyota breaks down on the last lap, asks Colin JHB, will the Audi in fourth get third place even though it's a lap down? Yes, it will.
You got to cross the line.
So that's something that, you know, it could even come down to the very last lap. You never know, especially when it's this close.
Yeah, absolutely. So Darren Turner's now back on board the number 95 Aston Martin in the GT Pro category. He's a lap down on Ryan Briscoe in the Ford, and he's lapping around 4 seconds off the pace, but the Aston's still there. You know, those guys have had a very quiet but solid run, as they said they were going to, making sure they come to pick up the bucket full of points they were after. So Turner looking very comfortable in fourth position at the moment. Billy Johnson in the Ford is over 2.5 minutes behind him. So let's see. I mean, the Ford will be without doubt trying to push to catch and pass Turner in the number 95 Aston, but Ford, yeah, a little way to go yet.
Jake Robson, after Nico Hülkenberg won LMP1 last year, do you think he should have stayed in F1 or moved over to WEC? Ask me that question again on November the 31st. Sorry, November the 30th, I should say, because we might know if Kimi Räikkönen's not going to be in Ferrari anymore, and Hülkenberg could be the key to that little jigsaw puzzle. But maybe he should have done. Maybe he should have done. How many years can you spend as a midfielder possibly chasing the occasional podium in Formula One rather than going for broke and becoming king of the world at Le Mans?
Yeah, absolutely. He did a fantastic job here last year. Clearly he enjoyed it an awful lot, but yeah, he's made his decision for the time being. He's got a contract in place, and if he's going to replace Kimi Räikkönen at Ferrari, he'd be crazy not to. I know which is going to be better for him financially.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan Hartley pits in, the number 1, in 24th position. They finally crept their way onto the first page of the listings again. So it's not done and dusted yet. 4 hours and 24 minutes to go, and they are currently, how many laps is that back? 38 laps back. 38 laps.
They're just here for the points.
They're here for the points,
and they're going to get those points as long as they maintain what they're doing now without losing any further ground.
Yeah, double points in 6th position in the World Endurance Championship. That's not bad considering where they were and how much time they've lost. That's actually going to be about the same sort of equivalent as a 3rd position would get them normally.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely worth them continuing to do. You never know what'll happen at the next round of the championship. Places like Bahrain, always going to be an interesting one for when WEC goes there. Mexico, completely unknown factor. They've never been there before, so anything can happen at the Mexico City circuit. There's all sorts of factors that make it absolutely essential that that Porsche keeps ticking over. In 25th position overall here, 6th in class. And that's going to be enough to give them the same sort of points that 3rd would do normally.
Davidson seems happy to have settled that gap at 4 seconds. He doesn't seem to want to make the pass on Lieb. We're expecting Lieb in on... Lieb will be another 3 laps before we'll be seeing Mark Lieb in. So Davidson will go ahead at that point, but he doesn't seem to need to want to make the pass. They had full service last time, so you know Lieb's going to need full service again at some point out of sequence with them. I do wonder whether Porsche will try and get back in sync with Toyota, just so that the playing field's level, even if they think they can do it on fewer full services, because at the end of the day, the race on the track is all important, especially if Toyota have got something left in their pocket in terms of pace. Which we haven't seen yet, and again we don't know. We just don't know. We didn't see the out-and-out qualifying performance of that car. We didn't see if they could have done a 3:16 outright lap record type lap. They may well still be holding back.
Well, the ESM's in trouble again.
Looks like a right rear puncture there.
Julien Canal, the Frenchman in the car at the moment, 7th in class overall. Sorry, it's
Razzle Dazzle Ryan
Dalziel.
Dalziel.
Razzle Dazzle Ryan Dalziel, man from Glasgow. The man who's made a name for himself in the United States, of course. Part of the revived Écurie Cos operation. I mentioned that because, of course, Écurie Cos, a very important name to the history of the Le Mans 24 Hours. They won with Jaguar in 1956 and 57. I'm going to be corrected straight away by looking at the poster behind me. Yeah, no, they did. They did. 56 and 57. So they did it. I was all right. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay. Écurie Cos, yes, they've basically made a resurgence back with some incredible backing. Ryan Dalziel being one of them. The other 2 names, Alan McNish and Dario Franchitti. So, you know, you couldn't ask for a better trio of hands to guide young people through, and they're managing the careers of some incredible young talents, the likes of Kieran Haggerty, who's really starting to make a big impression in the world of GT racing. Also Adam Mackay, who's been a Formula Ford racer in Scotland and in the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, in England, I should say as well. Not saying Scotland isn't part of it. No referendums yet. But, yep, it's been really interesting to see the rise of the Scottish talents, and hopefully the Ada Kyrgios programme is going to keep getting better. Is that a slow-moving Audi?
It looks like it, doesn't it? It looks like the 8 is now being in trouble. There's all 4 tyres are inflated. Hopefully we'll get radio shortly, but if Louise is
failing.
somewhere that near the middle of the pit lane, she wants to be outside the Audi garage.
The number 8 Audi, it was already looking very slim pickings to get a podium. Certainly looking out of the realms of possibility to get a win.
It's strange. It's definitely still under its own engine power, or is it? Is it Motors race director? Nope, he's gone away. Is it running on electric only?
Yeah, that's possible. If the combustion engine's failed and it's only got hybrid power left, that's such a shame.
I'm trying to hear whether it's.
Can't really hear anything. We could do with an onboard, really, to ride with Oliver Jarvis.
Yeah, it was interesting last night when the Porsche number 1
came. Here we go.
When the Porsche number 1 came in last night on battery only, it was showing the graphics. People were getting awfully confused, and there was all sorts of things on social media that there was 0 RPM, 100% throttle, and the car was travelling forward purely because it was running on battery only.
Yeah.
And people were saying, how does this work? The telemetry must be wrong, but no, the car was running purely on battery as it came in.
Toyota pulls out to lap a Ferrari at the exact same time. One of the LMP2 cars. I can't tell where it is from here.
It's on the rundown. There's the limping ESM car on the rundown to Indianapolis.
Get right out of the way, sir. Well done. Good job, Ryan. But I'm afraid to say the Audi dream just died, didn't it?
Yeah, I think
there's no way back from that.
That's it now. You know, they're 2 laps down now. We're waiting to see if it comes in. As it comes past the commentary box, we'll be able to hear whether the engine's running or not.
And that is why Brendan Hartley, Timo Bernhard and Mark Webber are still going and still giving it everything.
Absolutely, that could be more points. Let's see, let's wait and see. It's still moving. We saw Spa, the guys at Toyota sending the cars out onto the last lap to just drive round on hybrid only power just to collect the points.
Lieb now leads the race in front of Anthony Davidson in the number 5 Toyota by 2.3 seconds, and Davidson just got held up in traffic. That's a sorry sight. The Toyota. Did you see that? The cheeky little blink of the headlights as it passes the Audi. That's a satisfying moment for Kamui Kobayashi. Bye-bye. Your dream just ended. Ours is still looking good. We're even looking good for a 1-2, mate.
Just going to take my cans off and see if I can hear what's going on with the Audi.
Into the pits. Doesn't sound good at all, the Audi.
Sounds like the engine is running on idle.
Yeah, that would suggest battery only.
Yeah. So, but engine actually running, but just idling. So it could well be a drivetrain issue. The fact that the car would have come back under drive on the front. Louise saying they've got a back corner ready. Well, that again, that would make sense. If the car's lost drive, it can come back on the front axle. So Louise will come back to us with that. But if that is a back corner, that would make absolute sense. If they've lost a drive shaft at the rear, just bring the car back under, in effect using the engine as a generator, and drive it back on the front axle.
Elmer Van Zyl on Twitter. Which other car manufacturer do you think might compete in the Le Mans 24 in the future? 2 back corners being prepared for Audi in the pits.
Okay, so that could be a regeneration issue because they'd have the motors that are out there to regenerate the energy back into the battery pack.
Yeah. To answer the question, there are 2 names that immediately spring to mind. I'm not sure either of them are going to make a big push for a Le Mans prototype package anytime soon, but there are 2 names that spring to mind because of what's happening in the world of motorsport politically and in terms of which car companies are getting involved in which sports. And those 2 that I can see as the most likely are BMW and Jaguar. BMW have obviously been dallying in hybrid technology recently, that i8.
Jaguar won't be coming to Le Mans.
I don't see that happening.
They won't be coming to Le Mans. They've put all their eggs in the Formula E basket.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, the sort of the battery power and everything. Maybe they're dabbling a little bit, but no, I can't see them doing it.
And Louise thinks they've got 2 back corners ready. They've gone to work on the front of the car.
It could be front and back, apparently. There's definitely 2 corners on the same part.
Fronts. I suspect Louise is right. It's 2 corners and it's fronts the way they're going at it, which seems very odd considering the thing came back in on idle.
Well, this is now for Audi to finish in 4th and 5th. They could well drop to 4th and 6th with this car, and that looks like it could be a long job as well.
You'd be surprised how quickly they can change a front corner. You know that there is a drive shaft there now, so it is a little bit more complicated than it used to be. Ultimately, they're going to undo 8 bolts. The track rod lengths are going to be set, so the steering's all correct straight away. They'll be ready to go. The brakes will go with it. There are dry brake couplings on the brake lines, so they just disconnect those. There's no need to re-bleed the brakes. The car will be turned around extremely quickly. I could see Audi doing that in less than 5 minutes.
Any time now, there's going to be a lead change at the front. I can sense it. Davidson has caught up to Lieb, although they might get to the pit stop window before that actually happens, thinking about
I think
it.
They will. Magliacelli does appear to just be sitting happily behind Joey Hand, as we see them on the screen now. Doesn't seem too bothered about the fact that Joey's the one that's having to go and deal with the traffic.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm in no rush. You get bulked, you get loads of dirty air, and you get loads of bugs on your windscreen. I'm just going to sit here behind you, happy as Larry, and when I give the car to Fisico, he can kick your butt later.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what Matteo Magliacelli's on, basically. He's on quiet confidence there.
Nick Leventis continuing to lose time now. He's consistently lapping in the 350s while Vitaly Petrov is pumping in 342s consistently. Petrov doing a fantastic job, it has to be said. He was heavily criticised during his time in Formula One, but he really seems to have found a home for himself, doing an absolutely brilliant job. Most consistent driver in LMP2 at the moment by far.
Yeah, and again, another Formula One convert who has managed to make the switch with a lot of success and is actually showing people what he can do, what he's made of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Will Stevens is pumping in 336s, but equally, Will only has one setting, and that's go, 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 go.
Yep.
He didn't really get to show what he could do in Formula One last year with the car he had. But, you know, Petrov doing the sensible job, just pumping them in, making sure he gets it done, keeping out of trouble. And he's going to bring that thing far enough ahead of Nick Leventis that I don't think the Straka boys are going to be able to come back at them.
The Panis Barthez Ligier has just come in over an Audi. They're definitely now working on the front end of the number 8 Audi. Thanks to Louise for keeping us up to date on that one. Here's Ryan Briscoe, the 3rd of the GTE Pro cars, the 2nd Ford in the equation. It's currently Ford, Ferrari, Ford. There isn't a massive chance of a clean sweep for Ford. There was a while ago. They were running 1, 2 and 3 as we went into the night time. But now it's not going to be that way anymore because the 66 Ford with Billy Johnson currently at the wheel is now losing time quite rapidly. He's dropped down to 5th position behind Darren Turner in the Aston. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility to get a clean sweep, but it's looking more and more unlikely as the minutes tick down.
Everybody getting warnings for track limits on the exit of Tertre Rouge again. So that's going to become an issue, I think, before the end of the race. It's car after car after car each lap. They've got a camera system down there so they can see who it is, who's abusing it. You get your speeding ticket. So we'll see if they decide to start dishing some penalties out. They're just saying they're changing the back wing on the Audi. That would suggest a balance change to me. It's quicker to change the whole rear clip than it is to change the wing setting. So I would suggest that means that they're saying, OK, well, while we've got the opportunity to do it, let's take some downforce out or put some downforce into the rear of the car. Let's see where it goes. Ryan Dial pits in the 31, but it's not really in the fight for anything. It'll be interesting to see what that failure was because he came back very slowly.
When the history books write about the 2016 Le Mans 24 hours, they're going to mention it in the same light as 2008, 1991, 1998, 2011 as one of the great classics.
Absolutely, this has been, I mean, by far the most impressive Le Mans in my memory.
The best of the decade so far.
It's absolutely astonishing how close these cars have run now for 20 hours. You know, we're coming up to that mark now. You know, it's going to be, it's just going to be so close. We've got to wait and see how this fuel strategy plays out. I don't think Davidson wants to pass the Porsche. I think if Davidson had wanted to do it, he could have.
He'd have done it by now, yeah.
In 324s. He's quite happy pumping in the 324s, saving fuel, making sure that the car's still there at the end. They know they've just got a fight on their hands, and it will be interesting to see whether the Porsches come back in sync in terms of pit stops with the Toyotas. They need to get a bit more in their pocket if they want to do that. He needs to be 20 seconds up the road if they decide they want to do that. So let's see. He's got the choice to do it if he wants to do it, if there's the pace in the Porsche, which you would think there is. You know, they're consistently lapping in the 323s. Kobayashi's fastest lap of the race is a 321.4. Last year's fastest lap, Andre Lotterer in the Audi, 317.4. So there is still time in there. These cars have had some of their fuel capacity taken away from them. They are doing this with less energy, you know, so that they are going just as far, if not further, on less fuel.
Maybe they're trying to fix one of the corners rather than replace it, says Louise Beckett down in the pits at Audi. It's a difficult situation for Audi because they're not usually on the back foot of a Le Mans 24-hour motor race. They've won it all but 3 times since the year 2000 when they made their debut with that incredible Audi R8. They won it 3 years in a row as Team Yost. Then Bentley came and stole the thunder away from them in 2003. Team Yost didn't come back till 2006. But the Audi R8 was still a winning force with Team Go in 2004 and Champion Racing in 2005. And then Audi Yost came back with their brilliant R10 and just continued where they left off, basically. Peugeot got one off them in 2009. But in the last couple of seasons, it seems as though Porsche, and now this year Toyota, have definitely caught up.
Yeah, just hearing from Louise, 15 guys working on that Audi. 15 guys around the front of that car. Wow. I think you could probably get to the point where it's not efficient anymore, but they're not working, interestingly, inside the cockpit, down at the driver's feet, which is where the motor is, the energy recovery system is. They're working on the corners, so you know, it's going to be an issue with something conventional. I'm surprised, and I'm surprised we didn't hear radio traffic on that.
That's gone beyond the realm of idle hands, hasn't it?
Yeah. So front left, Louise is saying, is new front left going on. I'm really surprised by that. I can't believe that that's a wheel bearing issue or something like that. They just so rare now. You know, these cars do 32, 36-hour tests all the time. You know, if the driver was getting massive brake pad knockoff, we'd have heard about it through the drivers complaining back to the engineers. It does seem very, very strange to me, unless there's been an issue with a brake duct or something fundamental they can't fix, and they've got concerns over cooling.
And full credit to Audi. You know, let's be honest, Porsche and Toyota have got one up on them this time, fair and square. But Audi were part of that battle for 19 and a half hours. They'd only lost 1 lap in that little foray earlier on, and they were still pumping in the lap times. They were still there or thereabouts. So even though they've been defeated this year, you know, they're still the Audi that we know and love. They're still the Audi that can win Le Mans 24 hours if it all plays to them. It didn't this year.
At that point, they thought that they were still in the hunt. And I think we all thought for a little while that they were still in the hunt. They were going to come back. They were going to start throwing the gauntlet down and just go. But it doesn't seem that they had it. You know, that hour where it was all sort of sorting itself out early doors today. Just, you know, they were the fastest car on track, but not by enough. And then the other 3 have started pushing each other along, and they're the ones that are now setting the pace. I still don't think we've seen the ultimate pace. I think this is a case of how slowly can you win the race.
Yeah.
You know, 3:17 was last year's race lap record set by Andre Lotterer towards the end. 3:17. We're doing 3:24s. Everywhere else we've been, the cars have been just as fast.
I can see 3:16s at the very end of this. I can see it. So Lieb leading from Davidson and Kobayashi. Jarvis and Lotter are still 4th and 5th, although the Audi is still in the pits, and apparently we have a little bit more info on it. Here we go. There's the Toyota making the move for the lead. Davidson's decided to go for it, and Davidson makes the move on Mark Lieb. So we have a new leader. It's not Porsche leading the Mans anymore. It's Toyota. Davidson does decide to take the lead back for the Japanese squad.
Yep, so Davidson now been told, right, get on with it. But you have to say Mark Lieb has lost time, which is this point about when do they come back in check on the strategy in terms of tyres. So I think this time we're going to see full service for Lieb.
And of course Toyota don't need to do full service because they did it last time. So
Yep.
Davidson could do a 1-minute stop. There's the Toyota team. Heavy in applause. Yes. I think they're starting to think now, with 4 hours to go, we can win this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm expecting Lieb in this lap.
It was pretty academic in the end for Davidson. Porsche didn't fight it. There's no point in fighting it. Just let him go.
There was no point in doing that, and I do think this is going to be Lieb out, new tyres, full tank of fuel, and send him on his way.
Well, Lieb is still trying to outfox Davidson just in case he's going to get distracted behind a back marker.
Be interesting to see what they do with driver rotation now, because they were out of sync. Remember, we saw Dumas getting called back into the car earlier on because they weren't ready for him. So let's see what they do. I don't know whether they'll put Dumas back in. They can put Dumas back in on driver time. There's no problem there. But Neil Yarni came out last time round. They may stick him in for a single.
He's going on
to get back in check.
He's carrying on.
Okay.
He's carrying on for one more lap at least.
Yeah.
Now, if you're the Porsche team boss here, you've got a choice of driver to change. Oh, here's the radio.
No stress, Mark. No stress. Still 4 hours to go. Keep on pushing. The first 6 hours. That's why you got me. Yeah, copy that. Copy that.
Just explaining how Anthony Davidson got through. Nothing to panic about just yet. It's just the ebb and flow of the race. But if you're the Porsche team manager at this point and you think, well, sorry, I should say the Porsche race engineer for car number 2, because it's not the team manager that makes that decision, it is the race engineer. So which driver do you put in at this point? Do you put in Dumas or do you put in Yarni? What would you do?
Ideally, you're going to chuck Dumas in for a double and then run Yarni to the end. Let's see. I don't know whether, because of the way the driver rotation's worked out, that's what they'll do. It's going to depend how fresh Yarni's feeling. I think Dumas is the one that's had to do more work recently. But then again, you're in the lead battle. Do you care? You didn't get to bed. You got called back out of bed to get back in the car because the other driver wasn't ready. Yeah, I think if I was Romain Dumas, I'd be getting in that car, driving it as hard as I can for a double stint, and then handing it back over to my colleague, Mr. Yarni, to the end.
How big a difference does that little hiccup in terms of the driver rotation actually make? Is it really significant enough to count?
It just depends how your driver deals with it. You know, at the end of the day, these guys are professionals. They're paid sportsmen. They're training all the time. There should be no problem for them. They should be able to absorb it. But it does funny things to you, Sleep. You know, you need it, particularly when you're operating at your absolute limit for up to 3 hours at a time, over 3 hours in a very warm cockpit.
There's the Corvette again.
Team AI car, yeah.
And that is going to be...
That is going to be Mark Patterson again, the same person that put that car off last night.
The oldest man in the field, born in Port Elizabeth in South Africa, 64 years of age. Quite a big distance between himself and the youngest man in the field, 45 years in fact. Matteo Tuscher, 19 years of age. The oldest person ever to finish the Le Mans 24 Hours, incidentally, was also born in South Africa, although he was South African derived, his nationality. That man is Jack Gerber, who finished the 2013 Le Mans 24 Hours, 68 years and 111 days old. He was actually the oldest person ever to enter the race as well, just the day before. And the youngest man ever to finish, no guesses for that one, that's the 16-year-old charger, Matt McMurray, 2 years ago. 16 years and 203 days old he was. And I still think it's madness even now, personally, in the same way that I originally thought Verstappen was madness in Formula 1. But, OK, he proved me wrong.
Yeah, you got to remember these guys have been doing it since they were probably 6. Okay, so we've got Ryan Dalziel going to tell us what went wrong there in the ESM pit.
Ryan Dalziel not what we want to see, you standing next to me in the pit garage.
No, it's always sucks when you get this far, and I don't know, we're trying to get back out. We had a really rare suspension failure earlier with Chris, and then we've had a second one now, which is a different part, but very uncharacteristic for the Ligier. They're usually pretty strong, so we're not sure if we just got bad batch. Everything was brand new, obviously, for the race. It sucks. We got to claw back up to the kind of top 7 and 8 there, and points for the WEC was looking pretty good, but that's like I said earlier, this is a cruel race, and 4 hours from the end, we're trying to fix it, but the wishbone did a lot of damage when it ripped out the gearbox, so I'm glad it didn't happen to Porsche cars, but I'm also sad that it happened, and yeah, it sucks. We've had a great season so far, so we'll regroup, we'll try and get some more points here, and then we go on to the next one.
Thank you.
With 4 hours to go, we've got Lieb and Kobayashi both in the pit lane at the same time. They are leaving Mark Lieb in the number 2 Porsche.
Wow, for the 4th stint.
So this is a quad, yeah.
That's...
Same tyres as well. So they obviously feel that this is okay, it's working, get on with it.
Is that a brave decision or is that a conservative decision?
It just depends how they think they're going to be with fuel stops to the end. They might do a short one now if they really, really, really believe they can get to the end without a safety car. You know, you can't really plan this far out, but if you're going to roll the dice against 2 Toyotas, do you do it now?
Well, Lieb gets out in 2nd position. Kobayashi gets out in 3rd. No change at the front. 3 cars on the lead lap, fighting for the victory at the Le Mans 24 Hours, and there's still every chance it could be any one of the 3 of them. It could be the number 5 Toyota that leads currently. The number 2 Porsche may have one final sting in the tail for Toyota to take it away from them so cruelly, or the number 6 Toyota. Still plenty of space and plenty of pace in that car, so it's not all done and dusted. For these guys, though, the Ingolstadt mark, it is now officially game over. They can't jump through the 4 rings this time.
No, not unless by some miracle 2 Toyotas and a Porsche were to break.
That's the only way.
At which point we'd see an LMP2 overall podium finisher.
That's a good point.
But let's see, they're driving as fast as they can, they're doing everything they can, they're saving fuel where they can. They're just going out there and enjoying themselves now, I think. You know, they've been told race, that's clear from the radio messages we're hearing. The fact that Mark Lieb was having to justify why to himself almost, but telling the team, you know, sorry that I've let Davidson through, this is how it happened. At this stage in the game, if this was this stage in a WEC race, you wouldn't really care. So it's interesting to see what they're saying. So Darren Turner coming out of the number 95, and I think that's Fernando Reis. Yeah, Louise and I are both getting confused on this one. So who's with who now? They move them around. Yeah, no, so it's Darren Turner's in what we call the Dane train. So no, that will be Fernando Reis getting ready to replace Richie Stanaway in the number 97.
Into the box comes the 61 Clearwater Ferrari, currently running 4th in GTE AM. Having moved its way up, it's the 61, who's in the car at the moment? Kaita Sawa, the Japanese star, is in that car at the moment. There's the Porsche 919 Hybrid, climbed up to 23rd position, having just gone past Billy Johnson in the Ford. The Rebellion is there in 37th position, you can see. So there are definitely some teams that are struggling. The 50th position, the Rebellion R1, still not officially a retirement. But these 10 are, and there are some big names in amongst it. One of the Chevys, 2 of the Ferraris, 2 of the Porsches. The number 4, Babai Colles car, and that's the Corvette of Mark Patterson still being recovered. Surely they'll be able to get that one started again.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think they've just put him down on the tarmac at the edge because the engine was probably still running.
Pit stop for the leader. Anthony Davidson is in the Toyota. There won't be a driver change here because he's not been in the car that long. So this will be his 2nd stint, 3rd stint.
This will be him starting his 3rd.
Yep, 3rd stint.
2nd stint.
No, it is 2nd stint, yeah, because he's only just been in the car, so good point.
This is him starting his 2nd.
So he will know that Mark Lieb has only got one 13-lap, 14-lap stint left in him. There's the number 1 Porsche. That's not the Porsche we want to see. We want to see the other one. Davidson out to the pits again. And where is the number 2? A long way back. a long way back. So it looks to me as though the number 5 is going to get out with a clear advantage. Anthony Davidson leading the way. Mark Lieb in second position in the Porsche. There's the number 1 Porsche, still on for 6th position in the LMP1 category. And with double points, that's about the same as a podium would be normally. Riding on board with the number 1 Porsche, that's the RGR Morand in front of us. Please get out of the way, says Timo Bernhardt. Sorry, no, it's Brendan Hartley in the car. Thank you very much, says the New Zealander. Off he goes. Kobayashi now up to 2nd place. That's critical. Kobayashi's got through into P2. Where's Mark Lieb? We'll look back and see, but I can't see the Porsche anywhere. Oh, no, there he is. He has come through. So for a moment, the timing screens thought they were 1 and 2. They're not yet.
No. So we're at 10 seconds back, Kobayashi to Lieb. So he has closed that gap by 5 seconds through that point. That's good. You know, Kobayashi's just taken a huge chunk of time out.
But in terms of pit, and that was done on the track. That wasn't done in the pits.
That was not in the pits. Pit stop times are absolutely equal. The ACA doing a fantastic job of equalising the LMP1 pit stops. So, no, that is just pure on track.
Kamui Kobayashi doing what is expected of him, and even more so at the moment, to try and get the Toyota into 2nd position to make it a 1-2 for Toyota. And let's be honest, there's been a Japanese victory. There's never been a Japanese 1-2.
Yeah, but what we've just seen there is a net gain of Davidson of about 15 seconds over the last stint. He's taken 15 seconds out of Lieb. So Kobayashi has taken a little bit out. Kobayashi's taken about 10 seconds out, but Davidson's the one that's doing the hard work. So Davidson set off in the hair, just as we saw with Buemi in the car. It'll be interesting to see what Anthony starts to say about tyres halfway through this stint, because Sebastian Buemi was saying that I think the tyres are going away, but by the time he was halfway through his 2nd stint, if Anthony Davidson's managed that a little better and that he keeps the tyres with him, I think ultimately he'll get a better triple stint out of this. Porsche radio.
So Mark, we just need to stretch these stints out. That's why we left you in. This is the only chance we have of winning if it goes green all the way. How many laps? 13 laps to go, mate. 13 laps to go and you're done. 13 awesome laps. Watch out for Toyota.
They confirm the only chance of winning. The only chance of winning is if it's green all the way.
No, the only chance of winning is to stretch it if it's green all the way. So they've got to stretch the stints. That's what they're trying to do. They've realised that they need to start pumping in some 14 lappers if they can do it. You're going to start seeing Lifton coast. You're going to start seeing him just trying to eke it out, and they've done the calculations to try and work out where the Toyota's going to be. Yeah.
Davidson leading. Lieb 2nd, Kobayashi 3rd. The Audi, Oliver Jarvis, still in the pits, but still in 4th place. It's going to be a while before they are lapped by the sister car, Andre Lotterer, 6 laps ahead of them still.
I find it odd to hear the Porsche engineers saying already that that's their only chance. Ultimately, you only need one mistake in traffic and you're there. You know, you can make half a minute in traffic over the course of this race now. Easily make half a minute in traffic. There goes 3 seconds. Just lost. So why are they already saying that? It only takes Davidson to have a shocker of a stint through the traffic in the next 45-50 minutes, and suddenly that's flowed back towards them.
Is that a strategy? Do you think they might be trying to get Toyota?
Telling Toyota that they've given up.
To beat Toyota, they have to be complacent now. That could be a strategy in and of itself.
Let's see. Let's see what they say. I don't know. It is too close to call. You could say that Toyota are absolutely there, and if you looked at the facts, just raw facts in terms of fuel numbers and in terms of what they're doing on tyres and the lap times that Davidson's capable of putting in that number 5 car at the moment, that's fine. But maybe they should be starting to talk about, if that's the case, defending to Kobayashi, because they've only got a 7-second gap there. Unless they believe the Toyotas can go 5 seconds a lap faster and turn it on. Maybe they know something we don't in those terms. They've been looking at the sector times and know that actually Toyota have got a load of time in their pocket.
Drive-through penalty for the Michael Sheck racing car.
Negative, it was fuel stop only, same tires, same driver, 14 on the tire. Porsche, 16-1 behind, 16-1 behind. You will hit the traffic this lap, this lap.
They're just telling Davidson there he's on his 4th stint and they haven't changed tyres.
Quad stint on the tyres, yeah. So, you know, they're just trying to save a tyre stop. So, but what that also says is they believe that it's going to be within half a minute of each other at the end if all things remain equal. That's the calculation they've done, because that's the time it takes to change the tyres. So they're trying to save an entire tyre stop.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. How is it going to be that close when we consider these are the big 3 giants of the automotive world right now? Porsche, Toyota, Audi, and yet there's not much. When everything's going tickety-boo for all 3 teams, there is not much to choose between them at all.
No, just seeing number 68, Joey Hand-driven Ford come past us in the GTE Pro class. 7.3 seconds now the gap to Tony Villander, who's now taken over the number 82 car. So we've now got one of the 2 rapid pedalers in. They're saving Giancarlo Fisichella for the end of the race. Interesting thing about the Mark Lieb situation is that they've actually chosen to give that little bit more time also to our to Neil Yarni before he gets in that car.
It looks as though Louise Beckett has something for us down in pit lane.
Well, we can see the number 26 G-Drive on a charge with Will Stevens. Roman, you're just about to get in. As always, LMP2 is still close battles.
Yeah, it's normal. It's very close. We get some issues during the night. We get 1 minute penalty. We get a drive-through, so we get the puncture. So we lost something about more than 3 minutes. So it's exactly what is the difference between us and the P1. But you know, it's still 4 hours to go, and everything can happen. We try to push as hard as we can, and it's Le Mans.
No further action taken on the 36 for their pit stop that was under investigation. So what have you got to pull out the bag to get back to them?
But I think what we saw from 36 that they get 2 guns over the white line. So normally it should be also something, you know. And yeah, we got so much drive-through today, especially in this, due to the slow zones, which is, you know, it's like that. But yeah. Racing.
Thanks.
Yeah, Roman Reznov there, the man that's the link into the Gazprom money. He's been doing this program now in various different guises. Porsche radio.
11 laps, mate, 11 laps. Eyes forward, keep pushing.
And that's why Kobayashi is coming.
So, no, I mean, Roman alluding to penalties and equality there almost. So, you know, there will have been a discussion between team managers and the ACO about what went on in that pit stop. And, you know, there will have had to be justification for them not to receive a penalty. And they haven't been given that, so that's fine. Let's get on with it, Roman, and let's win it on the track. You know, he's had a 1 minute stop-go penalty. That's been for something fairly bad. You don't get thrown a 1 minute stop-go unless you've done something fairly fundamental. So let's see where he goes. But at the moment, Menezes and the Alpine number 36 car, which is just pitting now, looks very, very strong.
Davidson, Lieb, Kobayashi, Toyota, Porsche, Toyota, covered by 25 seconds. The gap is coming down all the time, though, between the second Toyota and the leading Porsche in second place. In the GTE Pro category, the gap is now to 7.4 seconds for Joey Hand in front of Tony Villander in the Ferrari, and that battle is still raging. It's not done and dusted yet for Ryan Briscoe either. He's actually still, would you believe it, on the same lap as those two. So if anything happens to those 2 guys up in front, there is another Ford in reserve just in case.
Yeah, and Billy Johnson's catching Darren Turner at quite a pace as well.
This race looks like it could come to the Fords at the bitter end.
Exactly. Billy Johnson in the 5th place GTE Pro car, just done a 3:51.5, which is the fastest lap for that car so far. And then we're looking at DT's just done a 3:57.8. You know, so there's a huge pace disadvantage there for the Aston. I think that Billy Johnson's got his eyes set on catching and passing Turner before the end. So we could see, you know, Ferrari and 3 Fords up there. In what order, I don't know. the gap has settled itself at 7 seconds with between Villander and Hand. We missed their pit stop somewhere along the line where they didn't take tyres. Neither car took tyres. So that's interesting as well, that they're managing to double stint and they're not changing tyres when they've changed driver.
Well, the number 1 Porsche is up into 21st place overall, and that makes it 6th place over in the class, of course. But if this Audi continues to remain in the pits, they could get even more than that.
Yeah. Jarvis still on board, presumably.
Still in the pits. Been there for a long time. So you get the idea that it's more than just a fundamental issue with the Audi. They would have been back on track pretty quick if it was a straightforward 5-minute job. They've been in the pits for, what, 10 laps? Exactly 10 laps, in fact. So that is the equivalent of 40, just under 40 minutes. I'd say 35 minutes they've been in the pits now, that Audi, which is about what we had for the number 7 in total. Audi have just been beaten. That doesn't happen very often.
No, absolutely. But it's been reliability that's let them down, which is the thing that they're not used to. So they'll go back and regroup, work out what the situation is and get back to it, I'm sure. So maybe they need a bigger clean sheet approach for 2017.
Some people in the night were saying, is this disappointing performance from Audi going to add fuel to the rumours about them going to Formula 1? No, not in the slightest. No, I don't see Audi being in Formula 1 anytime this century.
No, I don't think that's fair. I think that's fair. Why would you be there when you can put this through an R&D budget? You're learning all the time about the future of motor vehicles while you're here, proving out everything that you can directly transfer across to a road car. Look at the stuff they've done. Everyone always refers to the headlight technology. It is the single easiest reference, but there's going to be thousands of components that have been developed on these cars that have made it onto the road cars. So it's you can say the same for Formula 1 to a degree, but unfortunately the technology's just too far removed from what's feasible on an everyday road car that you or I could go and buy and drive and get serviced by your typical garage.
Yeah, fair play to Mercedes deciding to stick at it, and they are winning everything, which is kind of killing off the competition to a certain degree, you could argue. But it's a different market. Mercedes are happy to be in that market. They want to be winning every form of motor racing and have luxury cars on the table. Audi, they've got a much more intuitive plan than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the gaps again, Villander just doesn't seem to want to pass Hand. They're quite happy. I would have expected Tony Villander to be faster than Joey Hand lap for lap, and the gap is just sitting there now, 6.5 seconds, so brought it down by a second, but that's just traffic causing it to ebb and flow, and they've got an LMP2 car separating them and Ryan Briscoe. So Chris Hoy now out in the Ligier LMP2 car, the Algarve Pro Racing car.
He's not done badly for his debut in Le Mans 24 Hours either.
Doing a fantastic job, and that car had troubles with during the night with others in it. But no, fantastic job for Chris and the team, and I'm sure he's loving every single minute of this.
Now, why are they telling us that Anthony Davidson has participated in the Le Mans 24 Hours 4 times? He's definitely done it way more than that. He did the Velox Pro Drive Ferrari in 2003, Aston Martin Lola 2009, 2 years at Peugeot, and this is his 5th campaign for Toyota. So I make that 9. This is his 9th participation.
Certainly not his 4th.
No, it's definitely not his 4th. He's been here a lot longer than that. He knows a lot more of the tricks in the trade. That's all we've got left, folks, at the 24 Hours. It's flashed past so quickly, and the reason it's gone past so quickly is because we are genuinely on the edge of our seats, and have been pretty much since the safety car came in after 45 minutes behind the rain.
Yeah, absolutely. The race started under a torrential downpour is the only way to put it, as the cars went to the grid.
Oh, that's the six Toyota. Kobayashi losing it at the Porsche curves. Now
he hasn't hit anything.
No, he hasn't. Traffic.
Is he going to be straight in? Mechanics are readying themselves. You need to ready yourselves.
Just in case. What happened?
Whoa! Boys. Just completely dropped it.
Oh my word!
Error. Middle of the Porsche curves. Did he flat? Ooh. Can that camera go left? He went through the gravel trap. Clever boy, clever boy. But, oh no, he stopped it and drove it out.
And there's flames. Oh dear. Well,
see those front wheels spinning.
Look at that,
as it deploys some power through the front end.
The 1-2 might not be happening now. I'm not saying it's over for them, but that's a big headache
If that had been only two-wheel drive, that would have been entertaining to see whether he could have got that out. Toyota doing a good job there, getting that car back out the gravel trap, and he's lost. What did he lose? He lost 20-odd seconds.
Yep. About 25. Is that all right? Is that all right? They're just looking around. Is it okay? Do we need to do something?
They'll be ready for him just in case he's picked up a puncture or anything like that. But that's yeah, a mistake.
Okay, is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
There you go. They've just checked everything. It's okay.
That left-hand side pod's now looking a lot looser than it was. I think they might now need to take some action there. If you look at it, the floor.
Oh yes, look at that.
Okay, so the spin has broken the floor now completely.
He could get a black and orange flag for that.
Unlikely here, but they will need to do something about it on pace, I would suggest. I think as the car's gone in, he's just broken that floor, and now it's a case of how long do they leave it before they fix it, which would then give us a two-horse race.
Andre Lotterer is about to come into the pits, and they're not too far away, actually, the number 7 Audi from moving up into 4th position. Slicks being... which compound of that is being used for the number 7?
You can't tell.
You can't tell. Ooh.
Subtle differences.
You have to be in the know to know.
Good job, good job. Toyota behind, fell off the track. Toyota behind, fell off the track.
That's a little bit of cockiness coming from Porsche
yeah,
there.
It is.
Yeah.
It's almost disappointing to hear that, you know, the ha-ha kind of...
That is that is a hardy ha-ha moment, isn't it?
Because it can happen to you just as quickly. So let's see. I mean, Kobayashi will be pushing like crazy now, but that left-hand floor, to me, that looks like that's going to need more of a repair than it's had. It was held together with a bit of tank tape, and as he rotated around, it was an issue. But it's interesting, you know, the Toyota there, had that not had four-wheel drive, would that have got out of that gravel trap?
I don't think it would. Not without help, anyway.
So interesting, the whole approach.
They could have lost a lap there. By having four-wheel drive, they saved their beggar. And again, the Audi goes on. We're not expecting him in yet. So...
no, as he comes through, so that's Porsche number 2 comes through past us.
Big twitch,
the Ford
though.
chicane. Yeah, the car always twitches the way that as they lay the power down.
The other Porsche's in, though. Brendan Hartley coming into the pits now. It'd be quite nice to watch this pit stop, actually, because they've still got the donor car, as it were, in terms of strategy and in terms of setup, in terms of compound choice at Porsche. Down in 21st position overall, 6th in class, looking for points, nothing else. So they're not really going to get anything else, although they might get 5th out of this now if that Audi still can't get out. The 8 is out. The number 8 Audi, we've just been told by Louise Beckett, is out of the Le Mans 24 hours. Oh, out on track, sorry, my apologies. Getting panicked there. But yeah, Oliver Jarvis has got the car back on the track again. They've been in there for 39 minutes they spent in the pits. And Benoit Trullier is looking to get into the number 7. So there's going to be a bit of an inter-team squabble at this rate at Team Audi, because I think they're now both on the same lap.
Yeah. Now, my impression of the way that Toyota were using their hybrid system was that they would only deploy that front axle over a certain speed. Now, interesting that from stationary they use it.
Frédéric Sausset
getting put into the car. We've talked about this a couple of times.
I think the definition, the word hero gets bandied about a lot in the world of sport in particular, motor racing in general. Frédéric Sausset is a hero. There is no questioning that.
Yeah, he is. Totally. Completely agree.
Down the straight then. The Toyota recovering. Kamui Kobayashi just did a 3:26.9. So if there were problems with the tyre, I don't think they're there anymore. He's on exactly the same pace as Mark Lieb in the Audi. So he was very clever there, actually, Kamui Kobayashi. Once he felt the car snap away, he could have flat-spotted the tyres there in desperation.
Let it
That's
roll
a
backwards.
split-second decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't afford new tyres on my race car, so whenever it spins, I always let it roll.
A racing driver instinct there, and that is literally, you don't have a massive amount of time to make that decision either when you're in the car, when you're going backwards at 160, 170 miles an hour. You've literally got to
It's
make
an
that
awareness
decision.
of what's around you. It's an awareness of the runoff area, and that's what makes these guys so good. You know, he knew where the walls were. He knew that the car was, you know, spinning to the outside, and there was enough runoff there. So it is amazing.
Kamui Kobayashi, of course, is still the fastest man of the Le Mans 24 Hours with that 3-minute 21.445 lap. He set on lap 81, so a long time ago. Personal best, though, for Vitaly Petrov. The SMP LMP2 car up in 8th position overall, 3rd in the category, chasing down Will Stevens. And he set a personal best, although it's still not as quick as Will Stevens is going.
No, Will Stevens is really trying very hard now. He wants to get there. He's desperate to close that gap, get back on the lead lap, so that if we do have any issues, they're in the fight with Ricky Almi in the Alpine. He'll be coming out at the next stop. I think Stevens will get one more stint out of this. Petrov's definitely staying in. And Nick Leventis, depends what the Straka guys do and where we are with driver times, whether Nick Leventis will need to come out of that car or not. I suspect they'll try and... So Louise just saying that I think that's Danny's going to be getting in the car. Roman Rusinov getting into the Will Stevens car. Okay, so yeah, Will be coming out at this next stop.
Yellow flags. Where is it this time? Zone 24. That's the run out of... Isn't that down the Mulsanne Straight? It's the Manor!
Not hit anything, though.
No. Hopefully Matt Rowell can get it going again.
What is he doing?
What's he doing? Where is he? Where is he, actually?
Right, okay. He's gone straight on at Indianapolis.
Straight on at Indianapolis. Did he hit anything? No, I don't think he did.
He managed to get it straight up the escape road. We've seen that a couple of times this weekend. We saw one of the Fords on Wednesday night go off there, and he...
Wait a minute. How has he got it there?
No, that's a bit of clever driving on his part. Yeah, probably the same thing that you were talking about a moment ago. Don't flat spot the tyres. Just gone straight on, past there, and thought, right, okay, I'm not going to get it stopped. I've got another 50 yards of runoff area if I just pull to the right and go through the gate. One of the Fords tried that on Wednesday night and unfortunately missed it, just clipped the end of the tyre wall. So no, I think that's a bit of smart driving. He's outbraked himself and thought, right, go to the right, carry on, turn it round, get it back.
I definitely fancy a replay of that, though.
Yeah, that would have been an exciting moment.
Yeah, that would have been, okay, my heart just accelerated faster than I'm used to.
Those are the moments when, as a driver, if you're under control and if you're thinking about it, you know, you've made a mistake, but equally you're very aware of where you are and what's around you, and you can say, no, do you know what, I'm not going to panic now, I'm just going to take the escape road that I know is there, get the thing turned around and come back. So those are the ones that aren't quite so heart-stopping as the ones when you know you've got a wall straight in front of you.
He's done some big damage, though.
Yeah, okay.
That just buckled. That literally just buckled.
He's now straight on into the guardrail.
Once the nose buckled, you're not going to have any kind of control whatsoever.
Garting for the Manor guys now. I don't know how badly damaged the steering is. I mean, that was...
They could have won this. They could have won this. It's just all fallen apart.
Yeah, you know, and you could put that down to experience of the Manor guys, you know, the drivers that are in there, and the team to some regard. I don't think the team have made many mistakes, but...
well, that, I would suggest, is going to be a safety car. Because the damage to the car...
I think that'll be a slow zone. He's managing to keep the car going. He's going to take the just take the 320 board out. Nobody's going to mind. It's
not so much the damage that... Well, it's not so much where he is, but the car buckled, the nose buckled in the middle of the apex at the Porsche curves. So maybe there's debris in a very dangerous part of that part of the course.
I think they can clear it with a slow zone.
Let's watch. Here we go. Pop.
Yeah.
That's a scary moment.
The wheels were in the air completely.
Nothing you can do. In the wall, bang.
Braking wouldn't have helped him. Nothing would have helped him there. So I don't know. I think, you know, the majority of the debris is on the outside from the wall hit. I suspect they can do that with a slow zone either way.
Such a shame, though. Rookies this year of the Le Mans 24 Hours, but they've won so much in the past. They've competed in everything from MotoGP to GP3 to the Formula 3 European Series.
I don't know why he can't just engage. He has engaged reverse and tried to do it because he was nearly up to that 320-yard board. He's gone forwards and then thought, right, okay, now I can try and go backwards again and get the nose out, but the nose is well and truly wedged under there. He's going to struggle.
He really is. They've managed
Prepare
to
for
get...
slow zone, yeah. They're going to go slow zone 30 and 31. Yellows at 31 and 32. So, yeah, we'll go slow zone through that area.
They've had some incredible success. They were founded 26 years ago, 1990, the Manor team. They've had British Formula 3 champions in Mark Hines. Remember what happened to him? Obscurity. That's such a shame as well. Antonio Pizzonia, Formula 1 and IndyCar driver. He was also the Formula Renault UK champion for Manor in 1999, as were Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, and ironically, Oliver Jarvis in the Audi. So Manor has nurtured some incredible talent in the last few seasons. Raikkonen, Hamilton and Jarvis, 3 big names, all of whom have found success since being at Manor in their junior days. But Manor, as an LMP2 team, they have learnt a lot from this first Le Mans, and let's be fair to them, they have had an incredible effort. They've done a brilliant job considering what they've got. Here it is again. This is them rejoining. I want to see what happened before this. But here it comes. Hop. No control, no drive, nothing.
I understand why it broke, frankly. That's very odd to see he must have made contact with something.
That's kind of why I want to see what happened to get him in that escape road in the first place, because that would make a lot more sense to see what happened in the initial point of going on.
They may have clipped the guardrail on the inside through Indy, but equally, generally, they're either broken or they're not. There's not a huge amount of load going through them at that pace on the way in. He wasn't going that quick. Not a massive amount of downforce being generated.
No, he was being careful coming home, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he could sense there was damage. Is that Manor out of the race, do you think?
I suspect so. I suspect that is. We'll see. I mean, they can always get it back if the Manor 2 will pick them up, and then all the other bits drop off and bring it back round. But it'd be nice for those guys to get a finish.
Somebody asked earlier on, I never got round to it, but it's relevant now because we've had that Manor there. It was Dick Saplenti who gave us that one. Do the cars go back home damaged or repaired before being loaded back on the transport?
Depends how badly damaged they are. If it's got 4 wheels on it, you'll roll it on and send it home, typically. But then again, a lot of these cars now are insured. And a lot of these drivers paying a lot of money for insurance for the weekend. There'll be a lot of photos taken of any damage to allow them to make their claim, believe it or not. But that's how it works in motorsport these days.
Davidson, Lieb, Kobayashi, Jarvis and Lotterer is the order at the moment. For the 2 Audis, I think on the... No, I was going to say they're on the same lap. They're not quite on the same lap. There is a lap's difference between them. Lotterer very nearly caught up with Jarvis, but there is 1 lap still to be made up.
Villander's just making tiny inroads into Joey Hand now. Briscoe 207 behind them on the same lap, and then we've still got this LMP2 Algarve Pro Racing car. Chris Hoy's come out of that. Michael Munnerman, the team owner's now back into that car on the same lap, but then Mark Webber in the number 1 LMP1 Porsche is the next car up there.
Stevens and Petrov in together in the LMP2 battle. Stevens has come in and gone out. Petrov is doing the same. Still looks good for the Signatech Alpine though, doesn't it?
Yeah, no shadow of a doubt. There's been such a solid run for those guys. That Orica chassis branded Alpine has been a strong package all year, and the guys down at Signature, they're another one like Manor that's come from single seaters, but they know what they're doing and they know how to put a car together, and they've done a fantastic job of learning their trade here. I think this is probably the 5th year here. They've just done a solid job.
Through the Porsche curves very slowly, of course, as that Manor is being cleared away.
The 82 class 2nd place car, Tony Villander.
There's the leader. There's the leader, 2 cars up the road, as Matt Rao tries to help them get the car sorted. So I want to see what happened before that.
I think what's happened there is Rao's just gone in and unclipped the headlights so that they break, so that the wires don't get broken. We saw earlier one of the marshals just pulling the bodywork away when we saw the Alpine car go in at the first chicane, and obviously then you've got a wiring repair to do as well. So I think that's him just disconnecting the connectors so that when he does get that car lifted, all that bodywork falls away, and he can get on and bring that car back.
But he reckoned without it buckling underneath the splitter on the front and sending him into the barrier. It's a real shame as well. Here's the Australian IndyCar star, Ryan Briscoe. Very talented racing driver, Ryan Briscoe. Has won pretty much everything he's ever taken part in. And that includes Formula One, because he never actually took part in it. He was a test driver for Toyota back in the day. But there was a lot of rumour around him being a Formula One driver. And personally, I think he got the better end of the deal going to IndyCar.
Than staying where he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you look at history,
I'd agree with that.
Look at history, Toyota, well, Formula One, 2009, 8 years in the sport, and they didn't win anything.
No, one podium, wasn't it? But
2 or 3 podiums.
Here and they've done a fantastic job here.
This is what the thing is, this is what they're made for. This is exactly what the Toyota company is made for.
So into the slow zone again with the Ford the 69 Ford that we're riding on board with.
3 hours 25 to go. Half a minute separates Davidson and Lieb. Matthias Tversted on Twitter says the number 5 car has made 24 stops. The number 2 Porsche 25. Is the Toyota now an entire stop less than Porsche? Close, close. I'm not sure they're quite there yet. Well, they might. Actually, they might be. Is that a fair comment, do we think? Davidson, 24 stops compared to 25 stops for the Porsche. Are they now actually an entire stop less than Porsche? Have they got to that point yet?
They have got to that point, but I think it can happen again. I think that's what we were understanding from what Porsche was saying earlier. The only way Porsche can do it is by eking these stints out on tyres and on fuel. So Porsche think they're going to have to splash and dash before the end, I suspect.
2 Fords in together. Briscoe is in, and a little bit further ahead of him, the 67 is in as well. Marino Franchitti, who spent all that time down at the Mulsanne gravel track before we went dark yesterday with, I still to this hour think it wasn't driver induced. Maybe a sticking throttle or something that happened with the brakes or whatever. That's not a Marino Franchitti mistake.
I agree. It was very odd, but we never heard any more about that. So I suspect that that's what water under the bridge, long gone, and Ford just now keen to get the job done. Make sure that they bring the cars home in a very strong position and fighting every bit for that win. You know, Joey Hand is leading the class. Tony Villander is chasing hard in that 488, but the 488's been fragile this year. So far, the guys have done a fantastic job at Risi, keeping that car just out and ticking around. We see it there on the screen now. You know, that's what they're here to do. That's what Risi competition have always done.
The GTE battle is obviously grabbing headlines. Ferrari versus Ford. Adam Bice on Twitter says, so if we finish now, Aston Martin and Ford GT UK will get the most points in the WEC. And potentially, they'll jump Ferrari in the standings.
Yeah, and I think that the Ferraris have just had a complete shocker. You know, he's absolutely right. The point being who's full-time WEC and who's not, which we haven't touched on, so it's a very good point to make. Yes, you know, if you're Aston Martin now, you're actually pretty happy with that.
If you're a WEC Aston, yeah. And there are all WEC Astons, of course.
Yeah, so no, I think totally agree with him, completely agree with him. You're in a good place right now, and you know, your big competitors in the AF Corsa run, Ferrari 488s are out. That's it. You know, you are taking this big bag of points now that they've been talking about all week and just and doing a runner with it. So no, completely agree. It's a very good point.
The Manor is being assisted back to the pits. It could take a while, this. And surely the marshals won't be going the whole way with him.
What I don't understand is why they're pushing him to a place of safety to fire up. It's like you can't fire the thing, you know.
There's Graves and Merry watching on. Well, it's not Graves, actually. Merry is chatting away. There's the third place Toyota, Kobayashi, a minute off his sister car. Anthony Davidson leading. Mark Lieb in second place in the Porsche. Jarvis and Lotterer fourth and fifth. Kobayashi up the inside at Mulsanne there. A GT car giving an LMP2. Well, no, it was the Toyota, wasn't it? The hurry up. Do you really think that's going to work? That's a prototype. You're going to give the blinkers to a prototype and think it's going to work, Mr. Porsche? It's not going to happen, mate. It's not going to happen.
It depends. You know, some of these GTE cars are pretty quick, and if it's a slower gent in an LMP2 and he's getting held up across the apexes, we saw last night, you know, that there's nothing in it in a straight line. A very quick peddler in a GTE car can be every bit as quick through a twiddly bit as a less quick.
Here's why Kobayashi is playing catch-up.
P2 car, yeah, exactly. And I was just having a separate conversation off air with Louise about the floor on the side of that car. The floor is getting worse and worse, and that was made worse by the spin through the gravel. So you know, he managed to deploy the all-wheel drive system, get that car out of the gravel trap, but the floor is flapping so badly there. I can't see that tank tape's going to fix that now. Next driver is ready, but let's see what comes of it. I suspect they need to do something about it. You know, the fact that we're seeing these close-in shots, does that mean the ACO are looking at it too?
There may be an issue with that to put Kobayashi's car, the number 6, out of contention for the victory. Let's look at it. Yeah, that's quite a fundamental problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he's not feeling it more on the balance. The times are still there.
Yeah,
Kobayashi's pushing. There's nothing wrong with the times, but that's a big lump of floor in a fairly important area that's broken. You know, they may even have some cooling issues because the airflow down that area of the car is where the radiators are. He's clearly getting on with
still
it,
going,
and the thing's working, but we'll see.
It's clearly one of those sort of problems where if you keep going fast, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem because he's still going exactly the same sort of pace as Anthony Davidson, Mark Lieb, Oliver Jarvis. So he's there or thereabouts in the sector times where he's not being balked by a slow zone. Kobayashi is still pretty much exactly identical pace to the leaders, so it's not actually slowing him down, but then it could exacerbate. The problem could get worse. So I suppose that's their point of view. In terms of pressure, the next car down the road is 13 laps behind. That is the number 8 Audi. So that is a, what, 3-lap, 4-lap fix?
Yeah, it would be a flaw. Just talking to Louise about what's going on at Audi, and they're prepping ready for some fairly major work on the number 7 by the sounds of it. They've got brake discs out and ready, which is, you know, part of standard service. We kind of expect them to push it back into the garage at some stage around now and do that. And again, we're assuming that Porsche and Toyota are all things equal on brake wear and that they're not going to have to do discs and pads at some stage, one or other. That is an assumption that we're currently making based on all these strategy calls. But yeah, there's something more major going on down at Audi. So as soon as they're in, we'll work it out.
The gap has come down again in GTE Pro. Joey Hand leading, Tony Villander starting to get the gap down. Here we go again. How many times can these two manufacturers cross swords in this race?
I know, you know, three-second gap. Hand's going to be out at the end of this one. Villander, I would think, will stay in unless they're going to single to the end. Hand will take tyres, didn't take tyres at the last stop, so whoever the next driver into the Ford is will get tyres. Villander and the Ferrari, that's strange. They've split that, so they're getting tyres one stop, driver next stop. Still managing to double stint. But I have to say, if I was those guys and based on throwing some new boots at it, next one, stick some boots on it, stick the driver in it and get it gone. That's going to be Dirk Müller back into that car at the next stop.
Nick Milanger asks a question we haven't needed to answer for about 20 hours. Why do the cars still have their lights on? It's completely bright out. Now, this is to do with the fact that we started this race under safety car and the race was declared a wet race. Now, even though it's dried up and it's bone dry, the regulations stipulate that if the race is declared as a wet race, you have to run with your lights on all the way to the end. That even includes the Le Mans 24 hours. So if we started the race behind the safety car, which we did, Lights were mandatory, so now they're mandatory for the entirety of the race. It's not because they can see any better with them. They can't. It doesn't make a blind bit of difference in this weather. It would in the wet, it would in the dark, of course. But they've still got to continue using the lights all the way through the race because we started yesterday as a wet race. And that's the reason why the lights are still on. Jake Robson, do you think the number 2 Porsche's chance of victory is now starting to slowly fade? Lots of questions being asked about that.
I think Porsche believe that. This is number 7 in, which Louise and I have just been having a conversation about separately, so that's going to go back in the garage by the sounds of it. I think, you know, Porsche 46 seconds back. Davidson pulled out an absolutely blinding stint. Everything's equal there, you know, and over the last hour and a half, Davidson's just chipped away, and done that. But like we said before, you could lose half a minute in traffic in no time. You know, it's far from over now.
Andre Lotterer comes into the box, so he's pitting, and we have a feeling, Louise Beckett tells us, it's going to be in the garage again. Davidson leading by 46 seconds to Mark Lieb in the Porsche now. It's a big gap he's opened up, and he's still doing 3 to 4 seconds a lap quicker than the Porsche. The Porsche is just having to keep going at the moment.
I think we might have jinxed the Aston 95.
Oh, no!
That looks like both left tyres down. Is it just the rear?
I think it's the front as well. I think you're right.
No, front is up. It's just the rear. We're lucky. He's got lucky. So Turner with a left rear puncture on the way back in. I suspect Darren will come out of the car. They'll fuel it, and there'll be a new set of tyres going on that car.
Who would that be to the end? Would that be Fernando Reis to the end?
That won't. Would you triple? No. In a GTE car, that will be Fernando Reis in if he's ready.
And then Nicky Team to the end.
Team to the end, yeah.
There's the 7 back in the garage.
Fernando Reis isn't in that car. We've got that wrong.
Sorry.
So Marco Sorensen.
Marco Sorensen, that's it.
I suspect it'll be Team in next and then Sorensen to the end.
Yeah, Marco Sorensen, the man who felt hard done by Carmen Yorda on Twitter publicly. Bless him.
Don't do politics.
No. Politics, racing, surely not.
No, absolutely. Okay, so Louise will keep us up to date with what's going on with Audi 7. You know, they're out of this, but the internal Audi battle is still raging.
Oh, that's the Rizzi Competizione Ferrari.
It's just a spin, I hope.
That is the Rizzi Competizione Ferrari.
Same place we saw earlier.
Same place as Kobayashi. Now
that's a lot of gravel across the track.
Yeah, that's going to be a slow zone. And that is going to hand, potentially, with 3 1/4 hours to go. That gives Ford the upper hand, not just for the win.
The car's restarted.
Yeah, he has started the car.
He's got it going. Now he's going to turn left and go back through the gravel trap. Ooh.
That was a scary moment for Tony Villander.
All wheels, all tyres still inflated.
They're going to have to pit this. Let's see how he did it. Exactly the same. Carbon copy.
Yeah, over the bump. There is quite a bump there, and if you come through there offline, stood there watching on Wednesday, and the size of the bump, the cars as you're offline, if you try to go around the outside of someone there, it is particularly unsettling. So yeah, same thing, lost it over the bump.
Quiet smile in the Ford garage. We've cracked them. That's what they'll be saying.
Still a way to go, but
yeah, it's a long way to go.
The next thing is whether Villander does come straight into the pits, which he hasn't done. So Darren Turner's made it back now, coming past us with the 95. I see a bit of bodywork coming off that car now. So that's DT in.
Message from race control. Car 82 spun and continued at zone 33. They're not putting a slow zone out there. There was a lot of gravel that came onto the circuit.
Yeah, 1 or 2 cars through have probably cleared that, so 82 is into the pits.
That corner is now going to become Puncture City, potentially.
Yeah, potentially. You know, they've been careful with what they've chosen in terms of gravel types, just trying to look for damage, but there isn't anything there, is there? So that's...
So there is the Rizzi Competizione Ferrari, the 82, having pitted. It's caught them out. They've got a fresh set of boots. This is the class that isn't so much thinking about stints and thinking about conservation. You've just got to go ugly and go for it. And that's exactly what Tony Villander did. Pushed too hard, and the tyres go back on. Now, I'm going to look down the road. Where is the Ford for Ryan Briscoe? It's not going to get into 3rd position.
No.
It's not going to get into 2nd position. The Ferrari will rejoin in 2nd place. But there, ladies and gents, is the 3rd place car.
Just given Joey Hand what he needed in terms of a bit of breathing space.
Yep.
The dogfight is now off. But Giancarlo Fisichella getting in that car. They're out of sync on the pit stop, so again, that depends how that one's going to play out. I suspect that actually there was going to be a splash and dash anyway. So what that may have done now is play into their hands. We talked earlier about maybe some people start thinking of, if we're going to go green to the end, let's just get a stop in now, do a shorter stint now. It doesn't mean, do not write that Vilander Ferrari off. If that means that they haven't got to go and do a splash and dash at the end, that could play them straight back into the game.
Yep. It's so close. Ferrari definitely not out of this yet. Yes, they've lost a couple of minutes, but they're still on the lead lap. That is crucial. If they lost the lap now, you might be saying, well, Ford have got this. No, Giancarlo Fisichella hasn't even got back in the car yet. Audi, long faces, frustrated, tired, exhausted, desperate need for energy. And it's like hitting your head against a brick wall at the moment in that crew. Nothing seems to be going right. And that's a very crestfallen Ben Trillier, who's going to take over from Andre Lotterer. All they can do now is get points. All they can do is get points.
Yeah, get on with it and just see what they can do. This is a world championship. You know, they've won the first 2 rounds. They had the Silverstone victory taken away from them due to a plank wear issue at the end. They want to win it. They want to be there. And it's not just about Le Mans 24 Hour anymore. So let's see whether they can come back from this next time out in the 6-hour race at the Nürburgring.
Well, for those petrol heads with small children of the male persuasion, happy Father's Day. You're getting an absolutely cracking bit of entertainment to sort you out for the rest of the day. It's not a bad way to spend Father's Day, is it?
No, it's not.
Glued to the box. The best motor race you're going to see this year playing out before your very eyes.
Hopefully I can get back and see my kids tonight, but we'll see.
Same. I don't think I'm going to see my children until tomorrow, unfortunately. And all 3 of them have been bouncing up and down with joy. Daddy's going to do Le Mans. Daddy's going to do Le Mans. And yeah, I think I did that at one point as well. Daddy's going to do Le Mans. So yeah, I'm absolutely desperate to run back to see the kids. It's been a fantastic weekend, but on a day like today, you want to be near them. Mark Lieb, he's in the pits though. The Porsche boxes. So this could be, technically,
49 seconds, 50 seconds Davidson's now got.
Yeah.
You know, he has just absolutely thrown those times in. They've not been massively quick times, but he's been able to drive away from them. Kobayashi, last time round, 29.
Kobayashi is coming into the pits.
Confirming that there's an awful lot of tape being made up, ready for the number 6.
So let's
here
watch
we
this.
go. This is going to be it.
The most important commodity.
All right, they're cleaning it so that the tape sticks.
Kobayashi's out. In goes, who is that?
It's very broken.
Sarrazin. Sarrazin's in the car. Driver change at Porsche was there? Surely it must be time for Mark Lieb to get out of the car.
No, yes, Lieb should be out. We extended that, so I'd suggest the change has already happened.
So who did they put in? Because we didn't see that.
Yeah.
So maybe
we should be Duman now and then Yanni to the end is what I think we're going to do. Big sticky plaster going on the side of that car.
Here we go. The tape. It's the most precious.
They're being careful about how they do it. They know they haven't got that much pressure from behind, so they're doing it properly. They're doing it sensibly, making sure that the repair on the floor is okay. The last thing they want is that tape to go on and fall off immediately. That's not on, boys.
That's
boys,
not on.
That's not on.
That's not
Get
on
the
the
camera
car.
out of the way and go back and fix that. Do the proper job.
Yeah, that's not going to do it, is it?
No, the mechanics have made a mistake there.
The first time that car goes down the Mulsanne, that's going to fly off.
Yeah, well, it may last a little bit longer than that, but it's certainly not going to stay completely attached. They needed to get in there and give it another pat. I hope somebody in the pit lane said to them, "That's not stuck. That's not stuck. Get it fixed. Get it fixed."
Well, you know that Porsche aren't going to tell them that.
No, radio from number 5.
Box this lap. Need to confirm. Fuel stop only. How do we feel about doing a full spin of these tyres? I feel like they can do it. Negative. We stay on our strategy.
So Anthony Davidson requesting a 4th stint on those tyres. Toyota saying, no, let's stay safe. And I can understand why, actually, because Neil Yarni it is who's in the car. Okay, so Neil Yarny has got into the Porsche. Now that suggests to me
they're going to try and
maybe
push
they
now.
are going to push him to the end.
Well, they're going to push now. They're going to push very hard now.
So maybe they're going to leave Neil Yarny in the car until the bitter end,
They're
until
going to try
that
and
lady
break
sings.
Porsche. They're going to, sorry, Toyota. They're just going to. They've put their quickest of the quick in to try and see if he can eke it out.
Well, Davidson is the smoothest of those three drivers. Would you say he's the fastest? I think he probably is of those
No,
three.
Kamui Kobayashi at times has shown that he's the quickest of the Toyota drivers. But in that car, in the Davison car, I don't. Yeah, I mean he qualified it.
But Wemmy, you could argue, might be quicker than Davidson, but
yeah, Davidson qualified it.
That's good enough for us. Out he goes, the race leader, looking for Toyota's first win. If they do this, they will be the second Japanese manufacturer to win, the first to do so for 25 years after Mazda in 1991 with Volker Weidler, Bertrand Gachot and Britain's own Johnny Herbert. This year, it could well be another trio with a British man in the field. Sebastian Buemi, Kazuki Nakajima and Anthony Davidson. Could happen. It'll be the third time a Japanese team has won after Team Go that won with the Audi R8 with Dindo Capello, Tom Christensen and Seiji Ara. A forgotten man almost in the world of the Le Mans 24 Hours. And Seiji Ara in 2004 actually did a lot of the legwork. On board with the number 7 Audi. All is not well.
Number 68, Joey Hand, is in the pits. Be interesting to see if he stays in that car.
Just as things are starting to get fever pitch, I realise in 5 minutes, Julian Porter and Peter Dunbreck are going to be in here and we're going to be out of a job for 3 hours.
Absolutely. So what's this going on with the number 7? He is up to full space. He just looked slow out of there.
This is so tight. This is so tense. Toyota haven't got this one yet. Porsche haven't lost this yet.
No, absolutely. The 7 is still in the pit lane, I believe.
No, the 7 is out on track. Benoit Trullier.
Okay, they've done the work, and he's now back out there. Front and rear deck off that car again. It was very odd.
Yep.
So Oliver Jarvis back out and circulating as well. So both the Audis out there trying to pick up the points.
Yep, Oliver Jarvis was in the pits for 39 minutes and 24 seconds. That's one of the longest pit stops Audi have done in this race.
Joey Hand stayed in the Ford for a triple.
Yes, he did. They obviously feel he's looking pretty comfortable at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously doing a grand job. I would have thought by now they would have made the change and then just done a double and then a single to the end. But whoever they're going to put in next, which is going to be...
It's going to be Bourdais, isn't it? Because Muller's already just done one.
We've seen Sebastian just do a long run. Sebastian has just done a long run, so it would be Mueller back in. No.
That's true, because Muller was only in for, what, 1 stint, 2 stints?
2 stints. Yeah.
2 stints, yeah, so they could go for Muller, actually.
I think it would be. I think it would be Dirk in. And then the times we saw him putting in earlier, he was the quicker of the drivers in that car. He was the one that did all the damage to the Ferrari in terms of the gap. He pulled it back. He reeled him in and made sure that the car was there when he handed the car over to Hand. Hand inherited that gap and then just proceeded to put the pressure on the others to see the mistake that we saw from Tony Villander as he came through the karting sequence of corners on the way out of the Porsche curves. .34 must respect track limits. 34 isn't one of our front-running P2 cars.
No.
And there were a hell of a scrap there as the number 6 Toyota has to go round. Stefan Sarrazin has to go off track to get round a big gaggle of cars. P2s, GTEs all in there. The
Can't afford.
AI Corvette.
Can't afford to ease up for a second, can you?
No, absolutely. You know, it's 41-second gap to Neil Yarny now. So Yarny 41 seconds ahead of Sarrazin, but Davidson 1 minute and 4 up the road now. So Davidson's nearly got a full pit stop in his pocket on his outlap. The Yarny Porsche did have full service last time, obviously. Yarny in, and as did Sarrazin, but they tried to fix that flaw on Sarrazin's car.
Check the tape, actually, when it comes past.
Yeah.
Because it was flapping, and they certainly put the entire panel of tape on it, and it's not there anymore. Now, I don't think that's fallen off. I think that's the mechanics going back and having another look at it and suggesting actually, I don't know though.
I think what you said was right, Jake. I think the entire tape balloon has come off on the first run down the Mulsanne.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you don't want to be right about.
Now they might be getting called in because they've had an attempt at a repair and they've failed. This is the point where if you're sitting there, I don't know. There might be tape there looking at that shot from above.
Oh, this is bad bulking by the Ferrari. That's the car that's trying to get back into the fight for the victory, of course.
He's in a race of his own. He's gone past that first blue flag, but by the time they've gone past the second one, it was okay. So let's see if they can zoom in on the other side of the car. The other side of the car is the side we want. We want to see whether Sarrazin has got a broken. Here we go. Can we get it? No, the tape's still attached, I think.
It is still attached, yeah. It's still flapping about a bit, though. That's the only problem.
Yeah, the floor's no longer flapping, though. So that's the important thing. You know, you don't want that from an aero point of view, just flapping up and down, disturbing the air through the diffuser and causing you issues, which may well have been the reason for the spin. You know, that floor was getting very loose, and if you start putting dirty air through the diffuser, then you start losing rear grip, and that's exactly what happened. The car just turned on him on a sixpence. Right on the apex as he went over the bump through karting.
21 hours down, 3 hours to go. Toyota sitting pretty at the top of the timesheets. And now a minute, 2.6 seconds, a minute and 2.6 ahead of Gianni in the Porsche, who we believe is trying to go all the way to the end here. We think it's a possibility. Sarrazin has got in. That might be for the rest of the race. Davidson, we think there is going to be another driver change.
With 3 hours to go, I'd be surprised if they didn't put a fresh driver in when they do tyres, just because you need the ultimate pace. You need that driver to be as fresh as possible at the end. You know, it's a 1 minute gap for Gianni. That's the man you'd throw in now to try and close that gap. And you know, he is doing